Hey guys, tonight we're not meeting kings, no pyramids, not even the golden shine of Tutankhamun. No, we're going somewhere far scarier, a time when sneezing could make your neighbors switch gods overnight. It's morning in ancient Egypt. You're wrapped in heat that feels mummified. Flies buzz like cursed spells, and the air smells like something even Anubis would call in sick for. But more importantly, you're living through a plague. Don't expect anyone to say the word bacteria. Here the cause of disease is the god Seth, lord of chaos storms, and every misfortune known to humanity. Like it wasn't me, it was Seth. Before we begin, be gentle with me. Hit like if you've ever gotten sick and blamed it on dark deadlines or darker forces. Tell me in the comments, where are you watching from and what time is it? We're totally not collecting bedtime data for psychologists. Now, turn off the lights, turn on a fan so the breeze sounds like a desert wind brushing against mud brick roofs, and lean back. Because tonight, you're stepping into a world with no masks, no antibiotics, just sand-filled bread, and the quiet terror of sneezing at the wrong time. You are in ancient Egypt around 1350 BCE, a time when sunlight was considered a blessing right up until it roasted you like a flatbread someone forgot to flip. You have no mask, no soap, no idea what a germ is, just stone statues, absolute faith in gods, and beer so thick you could skip lunch and just chew it. And then it happens. Someone coughs, someone collapses. A house ties a black cloth over its door, and instantly no one asks, is it viral? They just whisper, did Seth get angry again? So get ready to spend a night in ancient Egypt, where plagues are divine riddles. Seth is the scapegoat, and every cough feels like a message. From the other side, you wake up, not because of a rooster's crow. Here roosters don't crow. They're the first to drop dead. Your eyes open in a dimly lit room where the ceiling is woven from reeds and the hope that this season has no snakes. You're lying on a straw mat, stiff as a priest's morals, and smells like half human, half Nile. The air isn't fresh. It's thick like overcooked cauliflower soup, with the scent of sweat, ash, dried corpses, and something suspiciously damp. You try to breathe lightly, and then you realize something's off. The person beside you is no longer breathing. No sound, no movement, only the smell, a very specific smell. A smell the Egyptians call the mark of Seth, and one that in the 21st century you'd call, before you call an ambulance, you should probably call the police. You sit up. The blanket you're under is a piece of old linen stained with perfume that's evaporated since some forgotten Ramses dynasty. You don't hear anyone talk. No one screams, but no one touches the person who stopped breathing either. Because in ancient Egypt, the dead aren't as dangerous as the nearly dead, the ones who cough, the ones who run a fever, the ones walking slower than usual. They're all considered carriers of Seth, and you unfortunately slept beside one last night. A child silently places a tiny statue of Horus at the doorway. An old woman sprinkles incense powder onto your hair and mutters something like, if it coughs, cut the tongue. You're not coughing, but your throat is starting to feel dry, from fear, from the air. Or maybe Seth has already noticed you. You swallow hard. A normal action, but in this air, thick as a burial shroud. The sound is like thunder. All eyes turn to you. Welcome. You are now the next one who must prove you're not sick. And in a world with no test, that means you have to Breathe unsuspiciously. You stand up. Your bare feet touch the floor. Not wood, not cool stone, but packed earth mixed with straw ash and something soft, like the bruised flesh of an overripe fruit. You don't want to know what it is. You just tiptoe, inching forward, like the ground might bite back. The place you're in shouldn't really be called a house. It's more like a rectangular dirt box. No windows, no ventilation. Just one tiny round hole above for the light of Ra to shine through. The light doesn't shine through. It stops midway, at the dust. The air in the room is so dense, it feels like someone cooked soup from breath and sealed the pot overnight. You look around. There are 4 others in this room. 1 old, 2 young, 1 man. No one talks. No one eats, just eyes meeting each other's, like statues frozen mid-shame by a thunder god. And smell. You try to speak, but your throat is dry as midday desert sand. Before you can form words, your tongue sticks to the roof of your mouth like bread stuck to a chopping board. Outside a voice calls in, a woman's voice shrill laced with suppressed panic. Rami's family has raised the black flag. You don't quite know what raising the flag means, but the child near the door starts crying. They clutch the small Hora statue, its wing broken but its cold-drawn eyes still staring straight at you. You see it. Suspicion, not from the child, but from the elder in the corner. Thin as a sun-dried twig, she slowly lifts a hand trembling, pointing at you. They slept near the infected. They are the conduit. The conduit. A word that sounds scientific. If science was just something a priest made up based on how spicy the incense smoke felt. You flinch back, nearly stepping on a broken clay bowl labeled blessings. The tallest man in the room steps forward. He doesn't say a word. He just places a pinch of salt on your head. A cleansing ritual. You don't feel clean. You just feel the salt clinging to your hair. Itchy, bitter. And fear spreading like flies in a windless noon. You're ordered to go outside. Not for fresh air, but to stand at the village's edge, in the temporary stone tent where they send those who need spiritual analysis. You walk out barefoot onto a ground layered in dust. No grass grows here, only shards of rock husks and a few dry bird bones. Someone probably blew off during yesterday's ritual. The village path is silent. No morning greetings, no one fetching water, no grinding stones. Only wind that carries the scent of burned straw, lime dust, and the feeling that something is gone. You pass a reed-covered gate, hung with a strip of dark cloth. A child sits crouched in the corner holding a bowl of ashes, scattering them into the wind, like counting prayers. You're not sure whether to stop and ask or pretend not to notice. Because here, kindness is not rewarded. Kindness can be mistaken for contamination. You finally reach the quarantine tent, except it's not a tent, just a patch of land fenced with reeds ringed with white stones. In the center, a 5-foot-tall statue of Seth hyena-faced, long-eared, grinning, like he just got promoted. You're asked to stand inside the circle. No one comes close. No one explains. Someone draws a charm on the ground with dried herbs. Another reads a list of symptoms loudly. Even though you're only 4 meters away, you feel like you're being interviewed by death, but there's no questionnaire, only judgment. And if you flinch the wrong way tomorrow, You might be the reason someone builds a new statue. You're standing in the village courtyard, rubbing sand and oil onto your body. No one comes near. No one asks if you need help. Just a few stares, the kind people give to someone who's stepped outside society's logic. A child walks by pinching their nose. An old man mutters. They're smearing Seth on themselves to hide. You're scrubbing your arms thinking, not sure if I'm disinfecting or becoming a walking symbol of infection. You decide to level up. You pull out some melted frankincense resin and smear it on your neck and temples, just like the anti-evil instructions etched on the stone slab near the market. And suddenly, a shout rings out. They're burning incense against the wind. You panic. You don't know which way to turn your head. People stir. A woman pulls out a charm. An old man starts shaking a tiny brass bell, shake, shake, shake. You kneel down, hands together. I just wanted to smell nice. A voice from the shade answers. Smelling nice has rules. It's the priest. He steps out carrying the scent of ancient wardrobes and older mildew. He approaches you with a long stick, doesn't touch, and then delivers a verdict you need. A proper wind-cleansing ritual. And so you're told to stand still while he fans smoke over you from a bundle of burning straw mixed with onion peels, goat hair, and, maybe, feathers that haven't fallen off yet. You start coughing, not from fear this time, but because your lungs are protesting. You survive the ritual. You don't catch fire. You're not tied up. In fact, the priest even nods. Good. For now. Don't eat fish for 3 days. You feel almost clean. Until you put your shirt back on. The linen shirt you hung out this morning has now absorbed dust heat and the scent of 3 different burning altars. You slip it on, and it instantly feels heavier than before the bath. The sun climbs higher. Sand lifts like mini dust clouds. Sweat pours from your freshly exfoliated pores, as if your body is saying, "Oh, that felt cool. Let me fix that with heat." You sit at the base of a stone pillar, elbows on knees, eyes staring far off. You see someone cleaning fish, and a goat eating smoke from a grill. You think being clean here is a battle, and I'm losing, in a way that smells. You sigh, pick out some grass tangled in your hair, and close your eyes. A new day begins. You've bathed. You've disinfected, and now you're ready for the worst breakfast in Egyptian history. You thought after the bath, the smoke ritual, the oils, and putting on a shirt that's been lightly grilled by wind and sand, that this would be over. But no. You've barely sat down when an auntie rushes over with a bone comb and says, "Comb your hair against the wind. Let the evil spirits fly out." You look at the comb. It's bent, missing 3 teeth, and looks like it was last used on something not hair. You still comb, not because you believe, but because here rejecting spiritual advice is dangerously close to rebellion. You squat, comb your hair, each strand stiff as dried reeds. Sand flicks out in little bursts. There's a gritty scrape sound like sandpaper. The nearby child watches you like it's a performance. You smile awkwardly. They throw a pebble at you and run away. You walk to the edge of the dried up well, where there's a clay bowl no one remembers the purpose of. It's filled with rainwater, patchy and reflective enough to show you. You look in. You see a slightly sunburned face, one cheek sticky with resin, one side of your hair standing from hardened oil. your collar puffed up from trapped sand, and eyes slightly disoriented. You sigh, lower your head, splash water on your face. You tell yourself, well, at least I no longer smell like a mummy forgotten in the sun. You wipe your face on your sleeve. For the second time, it's the same sleeve you wiped your feet with this morning. You're quiet. Say nothing. You walk home. Right at the doorstep, you run into your neighbor. She's holding a handful of dried mint leaves, inhales deeply, then hisses like a snake. Shh. Before you can say hi, she says, not bad, but still a bit. Holding on to Seth, you smile. Try to be polite. Hand brushing your collar, head lowered, she walks away, muttering, back in my day 3 rounds of smoke and we were fine. Kids today. Sigh. You want to say, I'm not a kid. I'm a survivor of stigma and 104-degree weather. But you don't say it, because you know in ancient Egypt, those who talk too much are often said to be harboring restless spirits. You return to your straw mat, the spot just cool enough to lie down without getting direct dust on your face. You stretch out, feel the oil still sitting on your skin, each drop of sweat merging like your body's reenacting a tiny water ritual. You breathe deep. The space is quiet. You tell yourself bathing didn't make me clean, but at least I'm no longer called a walk-in infection source. You nod. Your body still smells like a spoiled vegetarian banquet, but your spirit is doing okay. You look up at the sky, thinking about the next meal, and you realize bathing in ancient Egypt was never about being clean. It was about being allowed to live another day. You lie there for a bit, hoping you can fall back asleep. Not because you're tired, but because you're not ready to face breakfast. Unfortunately, your stomach disagrees. It growls, loud enough for everyone to hear, as if it's protesting to the entire district. We object to this severe food shortage. You get up. Your head spins a little. Eyes sting from the sand. Your throat is as dry as 6th Dynasty legal documents. And your mouth smells like a camel stepped through your dreams and left behind a bit of nostalgia. You step outside. The sun is just beginning its official morning shift. And you are looking for something called a meal. You turn left, heading toward the shared kitchen, a stone alcove on the side of Aunt Nebu's house, where there's usually smoke-burning smells and shouting at the youngest daughter for oversleeping. Today there's still smoke, still shouting, but bread not guaranteed. You sit down, eyes searching for a traditional Emma loaf, baked from ancient grain ground, with stone mixed with Nile water filtered through prayer. You spot a block as hard as sun-dried mortar, shapeless. Maybe bread. You tap it. It sounds like knocking on a temple door, knock knock. You pick it up, sniff. Smells a bit of ash, a bit of sour, a bit of yesterday, but not in a good way. You close your eyes, take a bite. Your teeth hit something, hard, sharp, and slightly gritty. You stop, open it up. Inside, a piece of sand. Not a topping, just flour mixed with crushed stone. A specialty ancient dentists hadn't yet been invented to handle. You wash it down with half a sip of watery beer, brewed from barley that wasn't soaked properly, fermented by sheer willpower and room temperature. It's warm, it's cloudy, it bubbles a little, and it contains floating things. You don't ask what they are. You're not emotionally ready for more hard truths this morning. You drink, you swallow, and then you feel okay. Not because it's tasty, but because your spirit is now numb enough to accept that it's edible if you don't die immediately. You lick your lips to rinse your mouth, then pat yourself on the shoulder. Like an Egyptian soldier who just survived a battle with bread. You place the clay bowl down and then hear murmurs. First from the corner of the yard, then from two women washing vegetables, then from an old man tapping his cane like keeping tempo. Rumors, the second form of nutrition in ancient Egypt, begin to spread. Did you hear someone fainted this morning from eating salted fish? Salted fish, I thought it was from drinking offering water. No, it was from standing near the statue of Seth. Without wearing a charm, you try to swallow the last bit of bread still in your mouth, but it feels like swallowing confusion itself. Because rumors travel faster than disease, you leave your bread that's now as dry as a forgotten temple idol. Your headlight, unclear if from hunger, breakfast beer, or the fresh wave of gossip. You sit on the front step next to a slanted date palm. An old woman trimming leaves suddenly leans over and whispers, "You know what? I heard they say the first person to cough wasn't from our village." You turn. Then where she winks, lowers her voice like she's about to leak state secrets. Temple of Bastet, the new priestess. Every prayer song she sings sounds like a gong, and she keeps singing. You smile awkwardly, start to walk away. But another woman jumps in. No, not the temple. It was the butcher's son. He dreamed of Seth, and Seth was laughing. That's when you realize ancient Egypt had no social media, but they had the neighbor lady, and that was the most effective rumor-spreading technology in history. A village of theories. You walk past the linen drying yard, where 3 women are wringing out cloth and squeezing out fresh rumors. I heard anyone who eats bread baked with old wood will start coughing. It's not the bread, it's the hand-washing water from that well where someone died. Wait, I thought it was from the shadow. The shadow of the infected fell on a chicken. The chicken died. So now you keep walking. Each step is a new conspiracy. Each corner is a podcast without the mic, but with dangerously high imagination levels. You stop beside a pile of still warm ashes. An old man sits arranging charms, sprinkling incense, and says, "Tomorrow brings western wind. Western wind carries sickness. You must burn fragrant leaves, 5 bundles, sprinkle them on the roof, cross them in the direction of sunrise." You don't know where he learned that, but he speaks like he's personally interviewed Ra. Then, you're pulled into a rumor. Unexpectedly, you thought you were doing fine. Finished breakfast, didn't speak, didn't cough, didn't drop your spoon. You thought you were invisible. Wrong. A woman walks past, stops, squints, turns to the person next to her. He's the one who slept next to that body last night, right? Before you can react, a man covered in ash shouts. He touched the river water before sunrise, and I saw him rub the wrong oil. The one for funerals, not baptisms. No one asks you. No one checks. You go from witness to suspect. In a social trial where evidence. That's what I saw. And then, the summoning begins. Just as you're trying to leave the gathering, a voice from the central tent calls out, "Anyone who's been in contact with someone showing symptoms, coughing, fever, confusion, or unusual smell, gather at the central altar." You freeze. Everyone looks at you. Their eyes, like rays of sunlight piercing through a cloud of suspicion. Before you can move, A young man rushes in with a flag. You there sit down, wait for the descenting inspection. You don't know what descenting is, only that someone's bringing a pot of burning herbs, a bundle of grass, and a bottle filled with something thick and brown. You think all I did was eat bread this morning. You bow your head and await judgment by smell. When your scent decides your fate, you're led to the village square, a place called the Collective Spiritual Cleansing Ground, a name that sounds both official and deeply unpromising. You sit in the middle of a stone circle. A man in a brown robe, shaved head, a stick of dry mugwort in his mouth, walks up. Stay calm, he says. This isn't punishment. This is a chance to reset your scent. You nod, because you know anyone who resists gets a second cleansing. And the second one doesn't use smoke. It uses coal powder blown straight into the ears, scattering powder to locate the infection zone. A young woman approaches holding a packet of lime powder mixed with star anise. She begins to sprinkle it over you handful by handful, like seasoning you before you're slow roasted. She says seriously, the powder will stick to areas of bad energy or strong smelling sweat. You look down, the powder clings to your armpits, your neck, and behind your knees. She nods thoughtfully, clearly. The scent comes from within. It's from the bath this morning actually. But you say nothing. You let the powder coat you like holiday snow. Except this version itches. You're told to close your eyes. A burner is pushed towards you. Inside straw onions, goat hair, and herbs to release bad spirits. You cough the moment the smoke hits your face. The crowd gasps. A voice from behind shouts, "He coughed." Seth is inside. You frantically wave your hands. It's not from sickness. It's the smoke, the fire. I'm a human being. No one listens. The ritual master silently adds dried beetle shells to the burner, as if to level up the demon cleansing difficulty. You endure, eyes watering, nose burning. Your throat feels like it's baking bread from the inside. You start to mumble, "I am a loyal servant of the light, not a living organism of smell. I just wanted to eat breakfast." Someone pats your shoulder, then suck it up or you'll miss lunch. Final stage. A young man brings a giant palm leaf fan. Written across it, wind of the god Shu. He starts fanning you, not rhythmically, not gently, but like he holds a personal grudge against your body. Every flap stirs up a dust storm. Powder flies into your hair. Smoke clings to your robe. Sand from the ground kicks up into your face. You cough again, but this time, no one reacts, because finally, everyone's tired. The priest steps out, holding a dried lotus flower. He taps your head 3 times. Done. You're not clean, but at least you're no dirtier than yesterday. You are allowed to keep living, but for now, stay away from the god statues. You nod, stand up, legs shaky, eyes burning, hair spiked, still hungry. You're handed a small slip stamped with the seal of God Ra, labeled temporary non-infected clearance card, valid for 2 days. You hold it like a passport. Walk home, your mouth still dry, but your heart just a little lighter. You head back thinking breakfast had rock bread, cloudy beer, vicious rumors, and a neighborhood-level descenting ritual. But you're still alive. You still have most of your teeth. You haven't been buried alive, and you haven't been renamed the one who breathes suspiciously. You exhale. A new day begins. You've survived your first morning in an ancient Egyptian pandemic. And now, it's time to think about lunch. You've just returned from the community descenting ritual. You sit down for less than 3 minutes before someone calls from the door. Those powdered and smoked this morning, please report to the Temple of Isis for a collective emergency prayer. You look up, your legs still ache, your back still smells burnt. But you know refusing is more dangerous than skipping quarantine. You stand up, hands on hips like a warrior with no health bar left. You lightly pat the non-infected pass tucked into your waistband, your talisman bought with your nose, your eyes, and your self-respect. Temple of Isis, where belief and despair meet, you step into the temple courtyard. It's wide, slightly cool from shade, and smells thickly of burning incense and anxious sweat. People sit in a circle. In the middle stands a stone pedestal, holding the statue of goddess Isis as tall as you are, looking down with eyes that don't blame, but don't help either. A priest steps to the center, raises a hand. His voice echoes like an ancient speaker. "O trembling souls, whoever wants to live, kneel. Whoever sniffled yesterday, bow your head in shame, you kneel. Not from fear, but because your knees are too tired to keep standing." Someone stands up, points at the person next to them. I heard them sigh at midnight. No one sighs normally during the season of Seth. The priest nods wisely, takes out a tiny bell and rings it once. The sound means keep an eye on them. You start sweating. With your last support or a psychological landmine, the prayer begins. Each person is given a small clay bowl. Inside ash fennel husks and a scrap of wax paper that says Ma'at, cosmic order. You're told to burn it, not for anything specific, just so the gods can smell your faith. You follow instructions. Smoke rises. You inhale. You cough. Everyone stares. You raise your hand, yell I coughed, because I believe too hard. The smell of faith is overpowering. An old woman nods. He's got a point. You're lucky. For now. Mekuritam dam. When all suspicions come with spiritual explanations, a boy asks, why do healthy people still get sick? Is it Ra testing them? The priest doesn't hesitate. No, they didn't bow deep enough. The gods love humility, and the minimum bowing angle is 45 degrees. You wonder if when science finally arrives, they'll measure antibody levels by spine curvature. After the collective prayer at Isis's temple, you think things will calm down. Everyone's cried, offered, knelt, burned their bowl of ash. They should feel lighter. But no. On the way home, you pass a group drawing chalk on a wall. Anyone walking past here without praying to Horus will be monitored for 3 days. You ask softly, who wrote that? A lady points at the line with a stick solemnly. No one did. My hand moved on its own. You stay silent. In Egypt, when people believe hard enough, truth can be replaced with style. That night the village announces a new rule. Not official, but everyone follows. Anyone coughing after sunset must bite a lump of cold clay. No one is allowed to say the word fever near temples. Anyone looking at a god statue and blinking twice is considered infected, though no one knows why. You hear all this, but your stomach's louder, so you go find food first. Holding a cup of unfermented beer, you sit at the edge of the yard and listen to 3 men arguing. Disease comes from negative energy collecting under your toenails. No, it's from not hanging enough garlic. I believe it's from breathing wrong. You nearly spit your beer. To the next day, villagers begin sprinkling anti-demon powder on everything bred to stop digestive transmission. Antika goat heads to keep spirits from latching onto livestock. Doorways to block Seth's wind from slipping in at night. You open your door and step on a lime powder bowl right on the threshold. A scream comes from behind you. You just broke the seal. You turn around. A boy wearing a cat mask hops 3 times and says, "I saw it in a dream." That's how you fix it. You step back. Your head spins, not from sickness, but because everyone is believing different things all at once. At the temple of Sobek they offer boiled snakes. At Hathor's shrine they offer grape juice. Then one day a kid dares to offer both and is made to stand in the sun to see which god speaks first. You look around. Everyone's exhausted. No one knows where the disease comes from. They only know if you're weak, you're more likely to be suspected. If you're suspected, you're more likely to be cast out. You start to feel something is wrong. Akikun Mikenaz Ayin comes, you ask your first question. That night, you lie in your corner of the house, staring at the straw-covered ceiling. The wind stirs. Sand falls onto your face. You wonder, what if sickness doesn't come from Seth? What if it's just something in the air inside people? Something smaller than sand. The thought sends chills down your spine. You sigh and say nothing, because you know, here the first to question is usually the first to be burned. You can't sleep, not because of coughing which faded since the afternoon, not because of hunger, though your stomach drums like a rain ritual, but because the thought is still there, that maybe the disease didn't come from a god, not from Seth, not from Wadjet, not from a drum-playing goat, but from something inside people, in the air, on unwashed hands, in uncovered coughs. You roll over. Your roommate is asleep. Mouth open, steady breathing, and feet smelling like they're running for local god candidacy. You sigh, close your eyes, try to forget the thought. You're standing in the courtyard, chewing bread as hard as a mountain. An old woman nearby mutters, "That boy coughed and died. That means Seth chose him." You, in a moment of unthinking honesty, say, "Maybe. He just caught something from the river. Could be bacteria." The courtyard goes silent. Someone drops their beer bowl. An elder whispers, "Bacteria. Is that a new god's name?" You quickly shake your head. No, not a god. It's something tiny, invisible. It's in the environment. An old man coughs, then spits. "I've lived 70 years and never seen a god named Bacteria dare cause this mess. You know, you've made a mistake." That night, you are invited to the temple, not to pray, but to explain. The priest stands there next to a smoking urn, golden light flickering on his face like someone tired of long meetings. You say, "There's an invisible thing, moving among the healthy." You nod. Not a ghost. No, not a god. No, not a dark spirit from the post-pyramid age. Also no. He goes quiet, then pulls out a clay bowl, pours water in, throws in a lump of charcoal and says, "Then what do you say it is?" You look at him, look at the bubbling water, and realize you have no way to prove anything. You go silent. You're not beaten, not cast out. Just no one talks to you anymore. People avoid your eyes. They scatter more powder when you walk by. A child draws your face next to a venomous snake. You survive, but you live like a dried up well. You sit on the rooftop watching the Nile drift quietly. You think maybe I was wrong, but if I'm right, who will listen? In the dark nights, standing at the edge of awakening, you sleep in silence. No blessings, no questions, just the sound of insects and wind, and the lingering scent of smoke from the latest mass cleansing. You sigh and wonder how many more must fall before people start to question the things they've never dared question. You close your eyes. Your heart is not at peace, but you are still alive, still aware. And for you, that is already a miracle. When a single cough can cost you a quiet life, you've tried your best to live in silence. No talking, no debating, no breathing hard. Telling yourself, if no one notices you, you might survive like a reed in the wind, bending with the times, never breaking anyone's beliefs. But life in ancient Egypt are not that simple. It starts one afternoon. You're standing in line for bread rations. The sun beats down like Ra himself is pouring sunlight straight onto your neck. You can't breathe. Your mouth is dry. Your throat burns. You turn your head, cough gently. Just once. Soft, quick, no phlegm. And everything stops. The person in front of you just about to take their bread turns round their hand, frozen midair. The person behind you carrying a bowl of ashes tilts slightly, then slowly backs away like you just released a demon. A child playing with dirt beside the oven freezes eyes wide. He coughed. Those words land like a curse. An old woman with a basket of vegetables glances over, then breathes out. So it was him. I've suspected for a while. You haven't even reacted. Your eyes are still squinting from the sunlight, but the verdict has already been spoken. The social storm starts with a whisper. Within 10 minutes, you hear at least 5 versions of your cough. He coughed without covering his mouth. Might be the first one. I've heard him cough for 3 nights in a row. Anyone who talks about bacteria doesn't cough normal. You start sweating, partly from the sun, partly because you realize you're not sick, but you've just been infected with judgment. And here judgment spreads faster than the flu. The rituals of social purification. That evening, the village doesn't invite you to the offering. No one calls you to gather firewood. Even your food bowl is placed far from the main kitchen, about 3 arm lengths away. You're not allowed to touch the water jar. You're not allowed to use the communal bowl. Wherever you walk, people tap their collars and spit 3 times. You begin to feel invisible, but still watched. You don't know who you are anymore. The infected, the pitied, the threat, or just the one who said the wrong thing, then happened to cough. You build your own quarantine inside your mind. You stop going to the market. You stop asking questions. You stop looking people in the eye because you're afraid of what you might see in theirs. You eat alone, next to the ash jar, talking to flies. You start fake coughing just softly every time someone gets too close, not because you want to spread anything, but because you need space. If they've already pushed you to the margins of society, you figure, might as well play the part. You remember the morning cough, a normal cough. Your throat was sore, dry. You turned your head, coughed. That's it. But that was enough to destroy the fragile peace you'd worked so hard to build. After that day, the village is no longer the same. No one says it aloud, but everyone knows from now on everything is divided by a new line. Not rich, poor, not strong, weak, but coughed versus not yet coughed. You walk to the well, once a gathering place, a spot for stories, washing laughter. Now it holds only cautious stares, awkward gestures, and quick footsteps, backing away when you arrive. You lift your jar. A boy points at you and whispers to his mother, "That's the one who coughed." The mother says nothing, just turns away, but quick enough to send a clear message. You put down the jar, about to leave. Then an old woman says, "It's fine. Take the water." Everyone coughs eventually. You feel grateful. Until she adds, "The issue is whether you cough before or after others sit near you." You freeze. People who once spoke to you now avoid your gaze. Someone who once invited you to eat porridge now invites someone else. From temple yard to fire pit, from pottery station to linen drying line, you've been shifted psychologically from villager to undefined variable. People start hanging charms at their doors, not to ward off spirits, but to block those who've coughed. One afternoon, you overhear two elders playing Event Connection in the back courtyard. He coughed the other day. Then Kipri's cow dropped dead. Yeah, strange, right? Heard his hut. Glowed green last night. You stand behind the mud wall listening to every word. You feel cold inside. Not because of the rumors, but because people want to believe. Believe that you are the problem. Believe that if you are isolated, everything will return to normal. You no longer have a name. No one calls you the son of so-and-so, or the one who works with clay, or the guy from the east corner. You are the cougher. 3 syllables. Nothing more needed. It follows you like a shadow, like a smell, like a label seared onto your forehead. One evening, you sit with a small group, under an oil lamp with incense smoke still drifting in the air. You try to say maybe. A cough is a natural reflex. Not everyone who coughs is sick. A man frowns. What are you saying, denying it? A woman says a cough is a sign. Whoever coughs, we avoid. You try to smile. Then, what if I sneeze instead? No one laughs. You stop resisting. Stop explaining. You cough lightly, not from illness, but because it's the last voice you're still allowed to keep. In a community that believes in silence and cleanliness and in fear they created themselves. You walk to the river. No one stops you. No one follows. You sit, alone. No cough, no words, just sitting. When you're turned into a symbol and surprised by the power you never asked for, you sit by the river like always, a place no one visits, too sunny, too far, too suspicious area, because you once coughed there. You toss a pebble into the water. It ripples quietly, like your cough rippled through the entire village. You think you've been forgotten. You think no one remembers you anymore. You're wrong. A figure. then 2, then 3. One morning, as you're breaking off bread that's harder than the 3rd-tier pyramid bricks, a child walks up, says nothing, just places a garlic bulb in front of you, then walks away. You frown, don't understand. That afternoon, someone else, an old man, places a handful of fennel seeds by your favorite rock. Then the next day, a young woman gives you a pouch of cloth stitched with the shape of lungs. You're confused, but you don't ask, because here, whoever asks becomes the next suspect. You've become a symbol, an unwanted one. That evening, while wondering if you should eat the leftover bread from morning, a small group appears. They sit, far apart, but they sit. No one speaks. They just look at you. You swallow and slowly ask, "What do you want?" A man says you survived. After the cough, you nod. You still eat, still sit, still don't tremble. You nod again. So, maybe, you're stronger than Seth. You almost choke, but stay calm. No, I just wash my hands before eating. The next morning, you wake up to find a small clay statue beside you, sculpted in your likeness. Bulging eyes, slightly crooked nose, hand covering the mouth. You laugh, not sure if from emotion or discomfort. Below it reads, "The one who coughed but didn't fall." You shake your head, not in denial, but because you never meant to be a symbol. You never gave speeches, never banged drums or blew horns. You simply existed. And so people begin to believe that you hold the secret to survival. Believe that sitting near you grants a bit of strong energy. You just sit there watching them, each person come and leave something, a seed, a charm, even a comb. You sit, smile faintly, no more coughing. And then, the fever fades. A week passes. No one else coughs. No one gets a high fever. No one suddenly collapses. Maybe the ritual was well timed. Maybe the village water cleared up. Maybe the weather shifted. No one knows. They just keep looking at you like you're the reason. You say nothing. Just think, if what it takes for them to listen is silence, then I can be quiet a little longer. You are no longer the cougher, not quite the silent hero. You're just someone who survived, who was swallowed by panic and returned by being ordinary. You sit there, look at the river. Sun's about to set. This time you don't cough. You smile gently and understand. In a place where one breath can get you erased, to keep breathing is already a victory. You thought after surviving social judgment, a wrongful cough, and stares hot enough to burn through linen, you were past the worst. People no longer whisper behind your back. You're allowed back into the temple. Someone even invites you to sit near the kitchen. You thought everything was calm. You were wrong. You wake up. Sunlight slips through the reed wall, painting a diagonal stripe on the straw floor. Your eyes aren't even fully open when you hear a strange sound. You bolt up like Seth just kicked you in the spine. Not human, not wind. It's your goat, coughing. You don't know if the goat learned to cough from you. You only know it sounds very familiar. Lethargic chickens, sneezing cats, joyless dogs. You haven't even caught your breath when you hear a faint noise behind you. You turn. The hen that usually jumps around is now drooping, head down tail, like wilted hair. She looks at you like she's saying, "I'm done." You're on your own now. You step to the doorway. Your dog, once the battle-hardened gatekeeper, is lying down, eyes dull, ears flat. Your cat, mid-leg lick, sneezes 3 times. You stand there, frozen, feeling a cloud of suspicion settle in your brain. Quiet questions. They live with you, share your straw mat, share the air. You once thought they were your last line of defense when trust in humans faded. Now you look at them, not sure whether to pity them, fear them, or run. You mutter, what if? Sickness doesn't care about species. You seek answers and get theology. You head to the market. Find the shaman you know. Point at a drawing of a goat, describe the symptoms. She widens her eyes, lifts her face to the wind and says, goats are side doors. If Seth can't enter humans, he picks unexpected paths. You wince. What about cats? Cats are spirit vessels. But if the spirit gets tainted, you must pray immediately. Best, roast an onion beside them. You leave feeling like you've learned a lot, but none of it helps. The village begins to react. That evening you overhear a woman telling her husband, his dog didn't bark today. That's a sign. Definitely a sign. You don't know what it means, but that night the bread on your doorstep is sprinkled with ash. The next morning your cat is tied up by someone you don't know. People begin avoiding not just you, but anywhere you and your animals have been. You do the only thing you can. You clear a corner of an old shed, lay down straw, set out water, lead in the goat, the cat, the dog. You hang a charm on the door, not to ward off spirits, but so people see you've done something. You sit down, stroke the dog's back. It exhales. The cat curls beside your feet. The goat sniffs your sleeve, then lies down, eyes still red. You look at each creature. Tell yourself they have no voice, and I am the only voice they have. You go quiet, listening to the breathing, yours and theirs. They're still alive. Some. When animals become a test of human nature. Since you moved your pets into their own space, the village begins to change. Not drastically, no announcements, but suddenly everyone is watching their own pets, like detectives. You walk by and see a man whispering to his donkey, sneeze, one more time, and you're done, you hear me. A woman draws a circle around her chicken coop, using ash mixed with onion juice. A child guards their cat, not to protect it, but to count the number of irregular breaths. From you to evidence. One afternoon, you head out with a basket of straw for the goat. A neighbor sees you, points there. He still keeps those animals. Another woman adds, I heard his cat refuses to pray to Bastet. Disrespectful. You smile awkwardly. They're cats. They don't go to temple. One woman shakes her head. Exactly. Still alive without praying. Strange, isn't it? You return home. At the doorstep, someone has written Seth on your wall in mud. You're not angry, just sad. Not because they hate you, but because they're scared. And fear breeds cruelty. A terrible proposal the next day. A meeting is held. The temple announces, to protect the community we propose, removing animals with unclear spiritual status. Someone claps, others nod. An elder pulls out a list: goats, chickens, cats, dogs, ranked by suspiciousness. You sit in the corner, silent, fists clenched. Someone turns to you. You're the only one still keeping all of them. You were also the first to cough. What do you think? You look up slowly, I think. If humans start throwing away everything that once gave them warmth, then what's left? Silence. A child coughs softly, and everyone looks away. The night before the purge, you return home, sit among the animals. The dog lays its head on your lap. The cat climbs your shoulder. The goat nibbles your hair like a condolence. You don't sleep. You think, if they come tomorrow morning, what will I do? Run, hide. Pretend I don't know them. You bow your head, whisper, if someone has to leave, it's me. You. You only know loyalty. No one has the right to punish loyalty. The next morning, something unexpected happens. You wake up, the doors open, breeze flows in. Silence. No one comes. No knocks. No shouting. Only a bowl of bread placed at your door. Written on it, for the person and their four-legged friends. You look around. No one's there. Just the village path, bright, clean, and peaceful. You bring the bread inside. Share it with each one. The cat sniffs, then eats. The goat finishes and licks your hand. The dog turns and licks the cat. You laugh. Maybe people don't fully understand. Maybe they still doubt. But at least they haven't lost their humanity. When you realize survival isn't about strength but about the loyalty of the weakest. That morning, you and your animals live another day. No one calls your name. No one exiles you. No need to hide in the dark. You sit in the yard watching the cat playing with straw. The goat chewing a dry onion like a snack. The dog resting its muzzle on your foot like there was never a storm of fear. You think these creatures have no idea what they just survived, and they don't need to. They just need me, and I need that more than I thought. The silent walls begin to break. You walk to the well. A stranger passes but doesn't avoid you like before. Instead, quietly places a bundle of straw beside the well, clean, dry, neatly tied. No words. You understand. No words needed. That afternoon, an old woman comes to your door, places a small bowl of water on the step, looks at you and says, "For the animal. It's hot this season." Then she walks away. You nod and feel your heart like it's been gently dusted clean by her simple words. Baashe. Your animals never ask, "Are you infected?" They just stay by your side. You cough, the dog licks your hand. You sigh, the cat snuggles your back. You lie down, eyes stinging from smoke. The goat rests its chin on your belly, breathing like the softest comfort. They don't care if you carry evil spirits. They only know you're the one who sleeps next to them. And to them, that's enough. Koi's komoi loyalty doesn't come from understanding. It comes from staying people once said you carried disease, wrote Seth's name on your wall, hung upside-down charms at your door. But none of these creatures left. They don't understand what's happening. They just know this is the warm place, the place with you, the place with food, and the familiar scent. And when the world turned cold toward you, they didn't do anything special. They just didn't leave. And that was enough for you to keep going. One day you decide to do something different. You gather straw, lift the stove, clean the floor, prepare the corner, not for yourself, but to build a clean shelter as requested, but on your own terms. You don't tie the cat, don't muzzle the dog, don't paste a charm on the goat's head. You just place a small wooden sign, co-living. No transmission, no words, just breathing together. A boy knocks. That afternoon you hear a knock. A boy son of the man who once threw you out of quarantine stands at your door holding a small turtle. He says it's weak. Dad won't let me keep it. Can you help it live? You look at the turtle. Its eyes are cloudy, legs tucked in. You nod. Yes. The boy bows. You don't ask his name. He doesn't ask for a reason, just a person and a creature being allowed to stay. You understand something no one taught you. Survivors aren't always the strong. Living long doesn't mean being right, but those who survive without betraying compassion, they deserve to stay. You look around. A cat curled sideways, paws tucked. A dog softly barking in its sleep. A goat resting its head on the water jar. You exhale, soft, warm, enough to remind you you are still human, when faith is the only thing holding you together. Night falls slowly. No gongs, no temple chants. Just the wind slipping through the wall cracks, whispering. You're still alive, so you're still cold. You lie on your mat. The cat curled in your arms. The dog snoring softly by your feet. The goat has stopped wheezing now, breathing evenly. You look up at the ceiling, palm leaves interwoven into a sacred makeshift roof, a place where gods don't visit, but also don't feel like tearing down. You ask yourself, what is faith? Is it something that keeps people alive, or something that keeps them from exploding from worry? Rituals, charms, and human hearts. Next morning you go outside. The priest is holding another warm belly ceremony. Villagers kneel around. Smoke swirls. People beat gongs in rhythm with the village chief's cough. You don't join, not because you object, just tired. Nothing left to pray for. To pray you must survive first. Someone asks you, don't you believe in the gods? You reply softly, I do. But I think the gods are just as tired as I am. No one responds. But since then, no one forces you to pray anymore. Maybe they understand. Or maybe they're too tired to convince anyone. This iguan. Loneliness doesn't come from lack of people, but from lack of dialogue. You sit in the courtyard. No one chases you away, but no one says anything either. Everyone's busy, surviving. Each person like a breathing stone, cold, silent, heavy, just trying to hold on. You pass a house where someone just died. No crying, no incense, just a hut sealed with thick straw, as if trying to block grief from leaking out. You stand there, say nothing. Agali kiki. Can you build a private altar, not for anyone else, just for your own soul? A corner of the yard, a clay bowl, 3 stones you picked from the river, a sprig of fragrant grass. You place there every unspoken sorrow. No one knows, no one needs to. It's where you wash your spirit. No gods, just you, the wind, and something greater than fear, smaller than hope, but enough to keep you sitting through an afternoon without running away. And you watch the moon, full, silent, faded behind desert dust. You think maybe the gods aren't in the rituals, not in the gongs. but in patience, in the trembling hand that still feeds the sick, in the eyes that don't look away from a sick animal, in silence not because of surrender, but because we don't want anyone to feel more afraid. You place your hand on your chest. If a God needs a place to rest, I've got room. I can hold a bit of belief even if I don't know whether it's real. Next morning, the wind still blows, same as always. But no one says nice weather today. No one mentions harvest season's coming. No one dares begin a sentence with maybe, because maybe is dangerous. Maybe leads to hope. And hope, if wrong, will break people harder than illness. You sit beneath a dry tamarind tree, holding a handful of cold rice mixed with wilted greens and a bit of salt. The cat sits beside you, not begging, not asking, just sitting together. You split the rice in half, give some to the cat. It eats. You eat. No word spoken, but you feel a kind of invisible offering just happened. No smoke, no gongs, just two beings sharing a bit of survival, and that meant something. That night, you dream. You see Ra not riding a solar bark but standing on your roof, clutching his chest, coughing like a regular man. You ask, "Why are you coughing?" He replies, "Even light gets tired. Sometimes I need someone to relight me when I forget I'm the sun." You wake up, chest warm, not sure if it was a dream or something you needed to hear. You pick up a bark shard. Use ash to write a few lines if anyone is listening. Please let everyone have enough silence not to shatter. Let animals not be blamed. Let those who scream be allowed to finish screaming. Let the night end with dawn, not with bad news. You finish, then burn it, not to erase, but because it didn't need to be kept just said. You don't know who runs this world. Maybe gods, maybe someone sketching games on the sky, but you know this. You're still here, breathing, silent, unbroken, and your heart, though chipped, still has enough room to hold just enough usable faith. When loneliness spreads, but you choose not to catch it, you wake up early, not because of the sun, not because of hunger, but because someone is crying, not loud, not wild, just sobs soft, thin as dew, echoing from the house next door. You step to the door, no one there, just the straw wall of your neighbor trembling like a breath held too long. You don't knock, you don't ask. You return inside, grab a handful of dry cakes, wrap them in leaves, and quietly place them outside. The village now is a beehive, each person in their own cell. Once mornings had pounding sounds from grain mills, water carriers shouting greetings, kids chasing chickens, adults swearing then laughing. Now, everyone goes out once a day, takes the same path, wears the same face, the I'm fine face. You know they're not fine, like you. But no one wants to be the first to say it, because in a plague speaking up means weakness, and weakness is dangerous. And you choose to spread something else. That afternoon you walk to the riverbank, bring seeds, a few soft greens. You plant, not because you believe they'll grow, but because you need to prove to someone, maybe yourself, that something is still growing. Next day, you see an old man carrying a small papaya tree. He quietly places it beside your patch. No words. Day after that, a handful of onions. A mint plant. People don't greet. They just leave plants. And the abandoned patch near the river becomes a garden. Even animals feel loneliness. You notice it's not just people being isolated. Your dog, once cheerful, now lies in a corner. No one calls, no one pets. It watches you, eyes asking, "Did I do something wrong?" You pat its head quietly, say, "No. You just happen to be here at the wrong time." You take it for a walk, a lap. No one comes near, but at least you walked it. And it knows it hasn't been abandoned. You start writing, and don't send you pick up a bark shard. Use charcoal to write. Today I'm still alive. The plants still grow. The cat still licks its paw. The dog still snores. And the human heart is still learning to breathe. You don't know who it's for. You don't need it read. Just the fact that a truth was written is enough to keep you from disappearing. Or you look at the sky and understand up there are stars. They don't know who you are. They don't care if you survive. But you know, you're not a star. You're the tiny flicker in someone's heart who once needed you. And you're still here. So if anyone ever needs a little light, you can still flicker. Karis enestadnem. And when you open your heart and realize you're not the only one left one afternoon while sweeping ashes around the stove, there's a knock. Not 3 knocks then run like mischievous kids, but a soft knock, then silence, as if the person outside isn't sure they're welcome. You open the door. It's the old woman from the market corner, the one who once pointed at you and said, "That's the coffer." She's holding a bundle of something, silent. You look at her. She looks at you. She whispers, "I have some garlic. Old, but it can still make soup." You nod. Invite her in. Your house, once filled only with cat, dog and goat, now has a human guest. Two people, one bowl of soup, and a tiny piece of shared faith. You light the fire. She sits shielding the flame with her hand like cradling a dream. You make garlic soup using filtered river water. Ash strained a bit of greens, a bit of rice left from last week's offering. Not tasty, not hot, but someone sitting beside you. And the soup has breath in it. You pour her half a bowl. She eats slowly, then says, "I coughed once too. Didn't dare say anything." You don't respond. Just pour more water. Then the second person arrives. It's the child who once brought you the turtle. He sits at the door, holding a piece of sugarcane. You nod. He walks in. No words. Then the third, an old man, who lost his grandchild last season. Then the fourth, a girl you once saw crying at night. No one calls anyone. No one invites. But they all come for one reason. The place where you live doesn't spread fear. Or a kettle being poured in the kitchen. A breath heard in the yard. Someone peeling sweet potatoes on a bamboo mat. The cat sleeps at someone's feet. The dog rests its chin on a guest's knee. The goat naps beside the coal basket. You stand in the middle. Do nothing, just watch. And choke up a bit. Not from emotion, but because this is what you once thought had died. That night, no one mentions the gods, no ceremony, no prayers, but everyone sits in stillness. You light an oil lamp, place it in the yard. The golden light flickers. Everyone watches. No one asks why they're here. No one says, "Are you better yet?" Just a wordless sense of shared understanding. You think maybe this is the most beautiful prayer I've ever seen, because no one asks the gods for anything. We just want each other to still be alive. The next morning, everything is the same, but nothing is the same. You wake up, no shouting, no miraculous recoveries, no gods appearing in dreams, just someone packing cakes to take home, someone stroking the dog's back, someone watering the greens you planted, and you once called the coffer sitting in the corner sipping warm water, thinking the most powerful healing wasn't the incense, wasn't the charm, wasn't the statue. It was the right heart opening and someone daring to say first, "I'm still here. You can sit next to me," and ends. When sickness isn't just in the lungs but creeps into how people live with one another. You used to think illness was something that attacked the body. Fever, fatigue, cough, then rest, medicine, recovery. But then you saw illness attacking society, not through bacteria, not through water, but through looks. You thought illness made people weak, but it turns out illness reveals what people are really living for. Some live to stay alive, some live to preserve status, some live to stay silent for safety, and a few like you live because they still feel what's right and wrong. The most dangerous disease, fear of each other. One day you go to the well. No pushing, no crowding. Everyone keeps distance, but no longer because of the virus. Now, it's fear of people. You greet softly. Someone frowns, nods stiffly. You're used to it. Kindness is now a luxury. Anyone showing it might be hiding illness to blend in. You start breathing evenly, no cough. No expression. Not to stay safe, but to avoid being gossiped about. Every action, washing hands, spreading ash, covering your mouth, is no longer a habit, but a declaration. Those who pray 3 times a day call those who pray once godless. Vegetarians say fish eaters are inviting Seth to dine. You quietly watch people categorize one another by rice bowls, charms, scarf colors. You used to think flies carried disease, but now you see people infect each other by assigning roles. The curses begin to return. No one dares say illness, so they rename it. Wandering breath, invisible poisonous air, whispers from dead soil. You hear that, want to cough, but hold it in. A child says, "My brother heard scratching at the door last night. In the morning he had a fever." You ask, "Maybe it was the cold." He shakes his head, "No, it was a curse. I heard it. It knocked 3 times. You've been suspected before. You've lived among cats, dogs, goats, creatures people whispered about. You've lived through that. You know maybe there's no curse, only fear born from not understanding. But those who fear believe easily. Those who believe act. And those who act in fear can cause disaster in the name of the sacred. Then someone is made an example. The old man who used herbs. Some got better after taking his medicine. Some didn't. Some died. One morning he's brought to the square. No beatings, no ropes. Just standing there for the whole village to look at. Everyone looks. No one stops it. Because if no one's wrong, Then no one's guilty. You see him standing there. His eyes aren't scared, just tired. You clench your fist. We're not sick because of Seth. We're sick because we're too afraid to say, I don't know. All it takes is one cough, a soft one, from swallowing rice the wrong way. The whole village will lock eyes on you. You carry something, and we don't want it near us. No one will say you're sick, but they'll pull their hands back when you reach out. Take half a step back when you approach the water jar. Serve your food far from the fire. You don't cough anymore, but they still look at you like you're glowing. Grey. These days, right and wrong aren't useful concepts. Someone wearing 5 charms wired right. 1 charm wired wrong. No charms. Possibly Seth in disguise. You remember the day an elder said, I think bad breath is contagious. And since that day, anyone who breathed too heavily was asked to sit alone. You asked, is there proof? He replied no, but it makes sense. And logic in a plague only needs to sound nice to be enough. You notice some survive because they never leave home for 3 months. Some survive by wearing 3 layers of scarves, each blessed at a different temple. Some survive because no one notices they're alive. And you survive because you refuse to die while still angry. Angry because no one speaks the truth. Angry because everyone believes their own thoughts. But no one dares ask what others think. And then Seth is named again, not to blame, but to explain what can't be explained. An old woman says my grandson had a fever after a nap. Clearly Seth passed by his bed. A young man says I saw a snake enter the kitchen. Must be Sobek warning us of betrayal. You hear it, and don't know whether to cry or laugh. You think if a lost snake is a cosmic sign, then maybe the ant crawling on my hand means a good harvest is coming. You build a boundary in your mind not to block disease, but to keep from going mad. You stop reading charms. You listen instead. You stop asking who's right. You ask who needs me here today. You stop counting who's alive, who's gone. You start counting how many times someone needs a simple yeah. Then comes the day of community action. A list leaks. Names of potentially harmful individuals. The herb healer, the widow who talks in her sleep, a child who once drew Seth in the dirt for fun. No one objects, because objecting, accomplice. You bite your lip. You don't want to believe it. But the worst sickness isn't in the chest. It's in how people believe curses faster than they believe in kindness. When curses aren't real but their consequences are, you don't believe in curses. Not because you're brave, just you've survived too many Seth showed up in someone's dream rumors, only for nothing to happen the next morning, except indigestion from too much salted fish. But not believing doesn't mean you're not afraid, because what's frightening isn't the gods, it's the people who act for the gods when the gods stay silent. The old healer, the one who once gave you mint, is brought to the square in the morning. No ropes, no beatings, just stares. The village is told, we're not sure he's guilty, but if something happens, at least we did something. You hear that? Your hands clench. Not from rage, but from that word if. If something happens, if Seth is angry, if the old man is the cause. In plague era Egypt, if is enough to remove someone. No documents, no laws. Just someone once heard a cough near his hut. Someone dreamed of fire near his herbs. Someone didn't like him since last year. All that adds up to enough bad feeling to act. You stand outside the circle. You want to say something, but then the eyes turn to you. You remember being looked at like that once, and you say nothing. They don't kill him, just exile him. He leaves with nothing but a water jug and a blessing. If you are innocent, the gods will protect you. He turns back to look at you. No blame, no hate, just a nod like he knows you wanted to speak. You stand there, frozen, and that night you don't sleep, because you know this didn't come from curses. It came from the fear of being associated. Next morning, people feel relieved. Nothing happened. No one died. No new cases. No fires. No blood. No fallen statues. Just an empty space. An abandoned hut. A pile of dried herbs. People feel relief, but not joy, because everyone knows we didn't save anyone. We just pushed someone further away. That evening, you walk by the river. Sand soft under your feet. You use a stick to write a curse doesn't have to be real. It just needs someone to believe, and enough people to look away. You're not sure who will read it. Maybe the wind will blow it. Maybe kids will step on it. But you feel lighter. Not because you did something great, but because you didn't let yourself believe silence was harmless. And one night you dream the old man returns. He smiles. No hate. Just says I'm still alive. But no one wants to believe in survival anymore. They only believe in safety by exclusion. And you wake up, not sure if it was real or a dream. Just see daylight. You're still here. And there are still things left unsaid. Bishmike. And when others forget why it started and you still remember, one day you open your eyes and realize no one talks about the illness anymore. No more purging air rituals. No more garlic on rooftops. No more Seth statues at every crossroads. Not because the sickness is gone, but because people got used to it. Death is now. Ordinary people don't wail anymore. Just nod, quietly wrap, place in straw. An old man passes. Someone says he lived a long life, even though no one knows when he got infected. A child coughs. The mother no longer smears ash, just wraps them in a blanket and says, "We've done our best. The rest is up to the gods." You listen and feel empty. No anger, no protest, just cold. People return to normal, but not the old normal festivals resume. Gongs sound, bread bakes, statues dusted upright again. People laugh, drink beer, step on the ground where the old man was banished. No one says his name. You look around. Everything's back, but not to the beginning. Just a place where people pretend they were never afraid. You quietly gather the scattered memories. You pass the herb hut. Pick up an old pot shard where the man once boiled leaves. You don't cry. Just wipe the dust. Slip it in your pocket. You walk to the river. The mint still grows slowly in small clusters. You pick a few leaves, tuck them into your shirt to keep something still alive. You don't want to be the last to remember, but if you are, you'll accept that. You sit among the crowd and don't belong. People sing and dance. You sit beside your cat, dog, and goat still alive. A child runs by, smiles at you, doesn't call you anything, doesn't mention the past. You nod, smile, maybe. The next generation won't know there was ever a plague, won't know some were cast out, suspected, cursed. But if you're still alive, you'll make sure truth doesn't disappear, not to retell it, but to prevent it from repeating. Hate, you go home, light the stove, boil onion, sprinkle salt, drop a few mint leaves, not to cure anything, just because you remember the old man. You write a line on a small wooden tag. Sometimes miracles don't come, but good people still deserve to be remembered. You don't hang it anywhere, just slip it under your pillow. Each night you lay your head on it, like leaning into something real, even if the world forgot. The final night of the plague, you lie under the Nile breeze. Breathe softly. No cough, no dreams. Just breathing like someone forgiven for a crime they never committed. And before you fall asleep, you think I survived, not with antibodies, but with memory, and by refusing to become like them. When rules are unclear and justice wears ceremonial robes, you wake up because of the gong. Strange. Not a ceremonial gong, not a disease alert gong. It's a summon gong. That kind of in-between sound, not too loud, not decisive. Like even the person hitting it isn't sure they actually want anyone to show up. You step out into the courtyard. People are gathering in front of the temple. A young man, red cloth tied around his head, voice booming like young thunder shouts. From today onward, our village will have a pandemic survival code. Anyone who breaks it will be dealt with. Through ritual, everyone claps. You scratch your head. From today, so what have we been following the past few weeks? The new law written by collective memory. You find someone and ask, where is that law written? An old man nods wisely. The leader just remembered it. In a dream, the gods whispered it. You hold back a sigh. The gods always choose to whisper when people are confused. Never offer advice when times are calm. The law itself, not written down. It's read aloud each morning by the only person possessed by the divine. That person is the temple chief's nephew. Coincidence so organized it hurts. The taboo's very sacred, very random. You sit and listen to the first morning's reading of the law. Some of the rules include: no eating before the sun touches the west roof line. No loud breathing when passing by the temple of Seth. No coughing 3 times in a row unless you have solid proof. It's just dust. No staring more than 7 seconds at someone standing in line. You ask an elder. Who's counting those 7 seconds? He shrugs. No one's counted. But everyone knows more than that, and you'll feel a chill. You shiver not from the cold, but because you're living among rules that don't need evidence. They just need to feel true. Each violation is a ceremony. There's no specific punishment, only a cleansing ritual. Someone coughs at the wrong time. They must sit in the middle of the courtyard, anoint themselves with scented oil, and recite 7 apologies in front of a goat. Someone eats lunch past the designated time. They must lie under the fig tree shade, listening to 3 feel-good stories from the villagers to reconnect with the source of light. You witness a man being tried for, singing while drying fish, charge creating sound resonance with wandering spirits. He doesn't argue, just asks to finish the chorus. And then you get invited. Why? Because you didn't attend the morning ritual for 3 days in a row. You're invited to the temple. You sit on a mat. Facing you 3 people in robes the color of burnt mouse fur with hats made from pressed palm leaves. They look at you. No blame, just a question. Do you still feel connected to the light? You pause. You almost say, I just overslept, but instead you reply, yes, but it's a little faint because I eat little, sleep less, and I'm trying really hard not to lose my mind. One nods, honest. We'll hold the still wind-seeding ritual, very gentle. You just need to sit in the vortex and listen to the wind say your name for 2 hours. Still wind-seeding ritual, when punishment needs more ceremony than reason. You're brought to the village's stone courtyard. A circle made of seashells, fish bones, and black sand is drawn around your sitting spot. In the center, there's a giant fan made of palm leaves. People call it the symbolic wind. 4 people stand at the 4 corners. One plays a flute. One taps a bowl. The other 2 sit and count the wind. You sit in the middle. You must not move. You must not speak. Someone whispers, if the wind swirls around you clockwise, the gods forgive. If it spins the other way, the gods are testing you. If the wind stands still, you've turned to stone and must be reborn. You whisper back, what if there's no wind at all? They reply, then we will fan it. And so, the 4 people begin waving their hands. There's no wind, but dust rises straight into your eyes. A calm ritual ends, but you don't know if you're cleared or not. After nearly an hour of sitting in imaginary wind, you're allowed to stand. No one announces your innocence. No one says you've been pardoned. Only an old woman taps your shoulder 3 times with a sprig of grass to shake off the toxic energy. From now on, live facing inward. You don't know where inward is. You just know. You're really tired, and your butt is numb. A lesson you never wanted to learn. That night you sit by the fire rubbing your knees. The dog rests at your feet. The cat lays its chin on a water bowl. You sigh. There are no miracles, but there are a lot of procedures. You're not angry. You're not amused. You just feel this society doesn't need someone to be wrong to punish them. It just needs someone standing in the wrong spot. And when you're judged by people who believe they're saving you, the next morning you step outside and find a new charm hanging at your door. You didn't hang it. Someone else did. Someone thinks you need protection, or need to be controlled, or both. You take the charm down. Don't rip it. Just fold it. Place it in your pocket like someone folding a letter they're too afraid to read. Etiti. You're invited again, this time to better understand your current role. You head to the temple courtyard with the spirit of no hope, no resistance. 3 people in gold robes sit on a stone platform. In front of them, a ceramic bowl of burning incense. They don't say hello. They don't say, please sit. They just stare at you like you just knocked over a shelf full of sacred scrolls. One speaks, we've met and discussed. You carry influence. You nod bad influence. Another chimes in, no, not exactly. It's just, you survived, but you didn't clearly do anything to survive. You want to respond, then realize they're suspicious of you because they can't explain why you didn't die. The character assessment begins. The first asks, have you ever thought you're a messenger? You shake your head, no. The second asks, have you ever dreamed of golden light? You hesitate just once, but that was a kitchen fire. The third writes something slowly onto a wax tablet, says nothing. You realize you're not being judged by evidence, but by what they believe you're hiding. Your crime surviving the wrong way. You're not accused. You're not labeled a heretic. You're not exiled. But you're assigned a status energetically unclear. They ask you to perform community service, to share your survival experience, to teach villagers how to regulate emotions during loneliness. You don't refuse. You just ask, am I allowed to say that I'm scared too? An elder stares at you for a long time, then nods, as long as you don't scare others with it. You laugh half bitter. And then you're given a title not priest, not healer, but the one who coughed and lived. You don't understand the meaning. No one explains it. But after that day, people begin to ask you, do you think the gods are testing me? I wake up every day and see no one. Should I believe I've been abandoned? My cat stopped licking its paw. Is that a sign you have no answers? You just nod, pour water, sit with them. A conclusion you never asked for. That evening, you're summoned to the temple again. One of them says, we've held a meeting. You are trustworthy. You're surprised I haven't proven anything. They respond exactly. One who doesn't try to appear sacred is someone who might be real. You don't know whether to feel happy or uneasy. All you know is, from now on, people believe you. Not because you're right, but because you don't deny anything. When trust becomes a golden cage, the day after being recognized as trustworthy, you return home with a new title, but don't know what to do with it. You try using it to ask for a larger food portion no one agrees. You try using it to walk your dog past the temple without getting stares still stared at. You try doing nothing at all, and someone comes to ask, why aren't you offering advice today? You hesitate. I'm a bit tired today. They tilt their head. The kind of tired a survivor would understand. I see. You don't know what they understand. You just know every answer now feels like a test. Quietly, you realize you are now a symbol, not a person. You're not allowed to get angry. Not allowed to say no. Not allowed to say, I don't know. Because the one who coughed and lived must be someone who understands all, forgives all, and stands tall like a sacred statue that never dares to fall. One night, you sit alone, bowl of cold porridge in hand, and you whisper into the air, I wish I could cough again. Loud, clear, at the wrong time. So they'd remember I was once just a person, not some half-dead spiritual guide in this half-dead pandemic village. but you're still there because someone needs you. The next morning, someone knocks at your door. You don't remember their name, just their face-drained, dry lips, hollow eyes. They don't ask for anything. They just sit. You pour water, stay quiet, sit with them. After 15 minutes, they stand up, say nothing, just nod. And you think, if that's why I'm still here, then fine. At least I know. My silence isn't useless. When justice is no longer justice, just a consensus for someone to stay quiet. You used to think justice was something for temples, for law, for loud robes and louder voices. But now, you understand, in this village, justice belongs to the majority. Not right or wrong, not good or evil. Just enough people nodding and anything becomes necessary. A strange trial, no charges, just applause. One morning you're called to the village courtyard to witness a community reminder. On the stone platform stands the man who once grew medicinal herbs, the one who opposed the 3-tier fire fumigation method. His crime disturbing the shared frequency of belief. No evidence, no victims, just the sense that he spoke differently. Someone yells, "I don't hate him." But when he exists, I can't believe in myself anymore. Everyone claps. You stand there hearing clearly. We're not judging him because he's wrong. We're judging him because his existence shakes the small world we need to believe in to survive. Please don't think differently after that a ritual is held. No beatings, no bans. Just, he may no longer speak publicly. No one may repeat his ideas. The plants he once grew are removed to prevent disruption of the local herbal energy field. You don't know what to call this. Not punishment, not exile. Maybe spiritual erasure. Quiet, subtle, no shouting, but everyone understands. You recognize the danger of assumed peace. That night you sit alone. No gongs, no cries. But you sense something is missing from the village. Not people, not trees, but the ability to doubt. Since everyone chose silence, things look more peaceful. But inside you, it's cold. Because you know, the first thing thrown away during a plague wasn't bread or dried melon. It was the ability to let others think differently. You stand in the courtyard and say nothing. One day someone asks, "What do you think about that man?" You look around. No one is forcing you to speak. No one is recording. But you know your answer will live in their eyes. You reply slowly, I think. When we're scared enough to only want to believe one thing, then anyone who says something else, even something small, becomes dangerous. They say nothing, just lower their head. Or you don't know if you did the right thing, or just got added to a new watch list, but you also see somewhere someone is still listening. A few days later, someone knocks. No questions. Just hands you a pouch of seeds from the old man. He left them before leaving the village. You hold them, say nothing. You know, not everyone forgets. Not everyone nods because of fear. Some still quietly keep what's right, even if they never say it. Where did they go when no one believed anymore? You wake up that morning and realize someone has disappeared. No crying, no mourning gong, no footprints leading out of the village. That person is simply no longer there. You can't remember the last time you spoke with them. Maybe it was when they reminded you to wash your hands, or when you shared half a roasted sweet potato. And then nothing. Not dead, not banished, just gone. During the plague, death has ritual. Being banished has witnesses. Quarantine has a list. But disappearance. No one says anything. You ask someone, "Where's Tef?" They shrug. "Ah, probably left. Left where no one knows. Left because there's nowhere left to stay, or because there's nowhere left to believe." You pass Tef's hut. Door open, no lock. Inside is an empty water bowl, a shirt still hanging. The wind blows. The mat flutters as if trying to say, "Someone's still here." You sit at the doorstep. Don't step inside. Because it feels like you're entering a sacred void where once belief lived and now has fled. Asm. Others have disappeared too. The woman who always gave vegetables, the boy who talked to cats, the elder who nodded slowly whenever someone said thank you. They are gone as well. Not all at once, not in the same way, but with one thing in common: they left no final word. You wonder, did they know they were about to leave? Or did they want not to leave anything behind? Because no one would hold on to it. People begin explaining in every way except the truth. An elder says those who disappear have been called back to the God's world. An old woman whispers, they didn't really leave, they just stopped appearing. A young man wrinkles his brow. Disappearance is a sign of community cleansing. The weak-willed are taken early so they won't endure suffering. You listen, throat dry, because some things don't need explaining. They only need admitting. You don't know. You begin fearing the void more than the illness you once feared: coughs, once feared charms, once feared stares. But now you fear the emptiness, the seat that once held someone, the bowl that once had a spoon, the path that once had footsteps. You understand death is an end. Disappearance is a question no one dares ask. Those still here but with absent souls, you start paying attention. Not everyone who disappeared left the village. Some people still sit there nodding, lighting fires, drying fish, husking rice. But their eyes seem to reside somewhere else, as if their bodies stayed. But the rest of them moved to a place no one was invited. You see an old man who once sang at the rituals now murmuring, "Those days were so lively, so lively." No one interrupts him. No one tells him to stop, because sometimes people don't listen to understand, only to confirm someone is still speaking. A meal with no one present. That night you cook dinner. Stale rice, boiled greens, a bowl of ash-flavoured water. You set 2 places at the table out of habit. The other spot remains empty. You plan to eat alone. Then you scoop more rice into the empty bowl. Not because someone will come, but because you don't want the empty seat to win. You say softly, "It's hot today. The wind is blowing the same old way. The mint is growing again." You hear yourself and think, if I disappear tomorrow, will anyone remember how I said things no one else responded to? You build a small stone pillar, no name, no plaque. In the flower garden, you build a small stone pillar by hand. No inscriptions, no date, just something standing up to remind you someone once stood here. A child passes by and asks, "Who's under there?" You answer, "No one." But not nobody either. The child frowns. So is it someone or not? You laugh. It's memory. And then others begin to come. It starts with an elder. He places a pebble. Then a young woman. She sticks in a dry branch. Then a teenager silent sits quietly for 5 minutes. Then leaves. You do not ask. You do not record. You just stand there. And let this become something the village never had a place, where there's no fear of forgetting. You don't know who the first person to disappear was. No one kept records. No one marked the spot. But now you know they're still here. Not through gods, not through ceremonies, but because someone still remembers. You smooth the dirt. Take a breath. Tomorrow maybe another will go. Maybe it'll be you. Maybe someone else. But if you're the one left behind, you'll write their name by hand and water it. When people don't say goodbye, but you still send one a day like any other. You wake up, light the fire, wash your face, dip your bread into warm water, and realize one more hut is empty. No strange noises, no signs of struggle, just absence. You pass by, pause, look inside. A shirt still hanging, a cup turned upside down, a broom standing neatly like its owner had stepped out for a moment and never came back. But you know they won't return, not because they died, not because they were cast out, but because they were too tired to keep going in a cycle with no end. You don't blame them. No one should be blamed for letting go when there's no grip left. You simply stand there and softly say goodbye, even if you didn't get to say goodbye. People don't cry anymore because crying doesn't change anything. You notice no one reacts strongly when someone disappears. Someone whispers, another one. Then turns away, continues washing clothes. Someone else exhales. Well, one less mouth to feed. You don't feel anger. You just feel this cold isn't from the wind. It comes from where connection used to be, now replaced by convenience. You do something small, even if no one asks. You cook a thin pot of porridge, place a small bowl in front of the empty hut. No name, no knocking. Just set it there, as a way to say, I see you, I remember you, and I don't need you here physically to confirm it's real. A new ritual, no one sees it, but you do it every time. Every time someone disappears, you pick up a pebble, write their name on it in charcoal, and place it in the garden you've been growing. Not to build a grave, not to memorialize, just to prove someone once mattered. One day, a child sees you doing it, asks, "What are you writing?" You reply a name. They nod. Ask no more. Just sit down and draw a cat next to the stone. You don't know if the person liked cats, but now they have a cat beside their name. And maybe that's enough. You sit by the fire, night falls, no one beside you. You whisper, I couldn't keep anyone, but I will remember. And if I go first, I hope someone nods and says goodbye, even just once. You don't expect a reply. You just hope. No one disappears without being remembered. You start writing letters to people who will never read them. Each night you gather a leaf, a piece of wood, a flat clump of dirt, and write down things you didn't get to say. no recipient, just someone. Thank you for standing beside me when I was scared. I didn't say anything, but I saw you. I hope you're still somewhere living your own way. If not, then I hope you found peace. You don't keep the notes. Each morning you burn them. The smoke rises, light, odorless, colorless, but enough to count as a goodbye. Not everyone needs a ceremony, but everyone deserves to leave with quiet warmth. People think goodbyes should be loud, full of ritual, crowded. You think otherwise. When someone disappears, no gongs, no horns, just someone to admit I miss you. That's enough. You begin collecting buttons, bits of string, pieces of pottery, anything left behind. You put them in a box, no label. Call it remnants of those no longer named. One sunny afternoon, you're planting flowers around the mound. Someone walks up, thinner than before, quieter than before, but someone you thought had disappeared. They say nothing. You don't ask anything. You simply gesture toward the empty seat nearby. They sit. You pour water, share bread, sit together in silence for nearly an hour. Finally they say, I don't know what I believe in anymore, but I know I still want to sit with someone without pretending I'm okay. You nod, say nothing, and for the first time in many weeks, you don't feel like the empty chair is won. You start to suspect that your village's collective nervous system might be the only thing the pandemic hasn't worn down. Because on a perfectly normal day, meaning no one fainted at the market, no one sneezed inside the temple, your neighbor aunt starts talking to an onion. You're so plump today. Even Seth must be jealous of your juiciness. You try to ignore it, not because it's strange, but because this is the new normal. Talking to food, the latest quarantine trend. People used to talk to chickens, dogs, cats. Now, mustard greens, pickled veggies, even bundles of dry straw have personalities. You walk past a house and hear someone mutter, "You're just a carrot, but you're a good one. Not like my grandson out there." You look around. No grandson. Just a carrot sitting in a bowl being wiped with a damp cloth. You used to think you were going crazy, but clearly, you're living in a community a few steps ahead of you. Things that happen but no one wants to admit. One night, you hear a long howl echo through the village. Not a dog, not a cat, not a person. You ask about it the next morning. Everyone says heard nothing. You press that howl echoey like a god trying to sing traditional opera. An old lady pats your shoulder gently. Don't mind it. If you heard it, that just means you still have energy. You're not sure if that's a compliment or a warning. All you know is around here, anyone who feels something is considered not yet calm enough. The people start sharing dreams like diaries you don't ask, but they tell you. I dreamed I was a water jar poured out every morning and filled again. I dreamed the goddess Isis wore wooden clogs and skipped rope in front of the temple. I dreamed my goat spoke and told me to stop making porridge. You don't argue. You yourself once dreamed you became a rice bowl and got left in the temple for 3 days because your energy wasn't pure enough. You woke up and checked your real bowl, just to be sure you were still human. You were still human. and then the three-eyed frog appears. No one knows where it came from. One morning it's sitting on top of the well, big, round, grey, and very much three-eyed. Someone asks, "Is this a divine manifestation?" Another gasps. "It's a sign. The season is shifting." A third blind in one eye cries, "That's me in my next life, I knew it. You, don't go near it." Your only survival tactic now: maintain the straightest face possible. Whenever someone says, "I just spoke to my own shadow," you nod. Whenever someone whispers, "My chicken is absorbing dark energy," you pour them tea. Whenever someone dreams a god tells them stop cooking for 3 days to purify the soul, you eat secretly behind your house and mask the smell with dry grass. You don't fight belief. You just detour around it with the calmness of someone who once saw dried fish smile. When you see something strange and start wondering if it's real, you always thought you were practical. You've survived ghost howls, rumors of Seth riding donkeys, and at least 3 instances of the gods appearing in burnt bread. But one night, you're no longer sure. Starts with a shadow that isn't yours. You're sitting by the fire. The flame flickers. Your shadow appears on the mud wall across from you. But it raises its hand when you don't. You stare. The shadow stays still, but its hand is higher than yours, and it has more fingers. You turn away. Take a breath. Tell yourself it's the fire. It's eye strain. It's undercooked bread. Then you go to sleep and dream that the shadow is having dinner with you. A strange dream and a very real mud stain. In the dream, you're laughing. You don't know why. Across from you is someone who looks like you, but with brighter eyes and no breath. That person asks, "Do you know why you haven't been chosen yet?" You ask back, chosen for what they smile. Don't answer. You wake up, forehead cold, throat dry, and on your shirt is a patch of mud damp real and not yours. And you try to tell someone and hear something scarier. You whisper to the old woman who always dreams. If a shadow stops following you, should you be worried she's not surprised? Good. If your shadow goes ahead, you follow. But if it lags behind, someone else is walking with you. You freeze. So if I see my shadow, but it doesn't look like me, she nods. Then it's not a shadow. It's a draft. A draft sketch from a god testing if you're worth editing. You nod. And avoid the kitchen wall ever since. You start seeing more than you'd like. One night you go out to fetch water. You see someone standing by the well. Long hair, head wrapped in cloth, not turning, not moving. You call out who's there. No reply. You step closer, still unmoving. You clear your throat cough gently, still nothing. You lean sideways to peek and see no feet. You don't scream, don't run. You just take slow steps back, carrying water, mumbling to yourself. Probably just tired, probably a statue, probably lucid dreaming. The next morning you go back, no one's missing, no one saw anything, but the muddy footprints are still there. And you begin to wonder, maybe the villagers aren't crazy. An old woman who talks to vegetables. Maybe she's talking to someone who once lived inside the cabbage. An old man who dreams by the well, sees his missing grandchild, then digs up an old object in the mud the next day. You used to laugh at them. Now, you pour tea for them. You're no longer sure who's the only one seeing something off. Maybe madness isn't being wrong. Maybe it's just seeing truth ahead of everyone else. You start testing, but you don't admit it. The next night, you light a lamp in front of a mirror, not to look at yourself, but to see if your shadow behaves. You move your right hand, the shadow moves too. You try a smile, the shadow smiles too. You exhale, blow out the light. Just as you turn away, you see your shadow still, smiling. You don't scream. You quietly step back, pick up the lamp, and from that night on, you stop looking in mirrors after dark. An old lady tastes the air to measure good days. You hear that the old woman at the end of the village no longer eats salt. Instead, every morning she licks stones. You ask why. She answers stone retains air. If it tastes salty, hot day. If it's sour, restless spirits. If it's sweet, don't go out. You laugh. But the next morning, sky clear, you step out. And right then, your cat stares into the air and growls. You step back inside, close the door, and lick a stone. You begin believing quietly. You don't chant, don't kneel, don't pray, but you step gently over your own shadow whenever crossing the porch. You don't pat anyone's back after dusk, and you never look directly at someone's shadow if it stretches longer than it should. You don't believe in rumors, but you don't challenge them either. You live like someone tiptoeing through a doorway without fully closing it, so that if something's watching from the other side, it knows you're not resisting. You start a new habit, pouring tea for the empty chair. Each night you pour an extra cup. Place it opposite you. No one sits, no one touches it. But you feel you're no longer alone. Not because of ghosts, not because of gods, just because you're no longer sure the dinner table is only for the living. End of a night and the start of a new awareness. You don't know when you changed, not because of something that happened, but because of things that can't be denied even if no one confirms them. You still live the same. Still eat bland porridge, light straw fires, laugh dryly when someone says Seth is sleeping under the jackfruit tree, but each night before bed, you look at your shadow. If it moves as it should, you exhale. If not, you whisper, it's okay. Go ahead. But please, let me know before you return. When you have to choose, believe in something uncertain or survive without believing in anything at all. One morning, you sit sipping tea with the village elder, the one who counts the breaths of the well. You ask what keeps someone alive during all this avoidant charm scallion porridge. She doesn't answer right away, just sips her tea, which you swear was brewed from dew and a few drops of intuition. Then she says, staying alive is one thing, staying soft is another. You sit there hearing your own heart. Stop clapping for logic. You begin to understand a person who believes in nothing is a person starting to fade. You used to keep your distance from superstition. You didn't poke onions to ward off spirits. You didn't talk to water spinach. You didn't pray before eating burnt bread. But you've also seen those who believe in nothing at all. Sit still like dirt and slowly stop being human. They eat, they breathe, they nod on cue, but their eyes are sealed packets of ash. You don't want that. You'd rather believe in something wrong but still moving than live correctly and feel nothing. You try believing in something small just to see if you're still soft inside. Each morning you whisper to the mint plant behind the kitchen, "Good morning. If something weird's going to happen today, please don't let it involve me falling into goat poop. There's no logic behind it." But it makes you laugh. And laughing in these times is more valuable than medicine. You don't tell anyone. You don't need them to know. Because sometimes believing in something is just a way to remind yourself you're still capable of doing the very human thing, waiting for something good to happen. And then you meet someone who chooses nothing at all. Someone who used to be the head priest, someone once admired, fed, consulted, now sits alone, says nothing, consumes nothing but water. You ask what happened. He only shakes his head. Everything I believed in couldn't save the one I wanted to save. You stay silent. You understand he hasn't lost belief. He just lost belief in the thing that once saved him. And that's the kind of collapse no one hears. You set out 2 cups, one for yourself, one for the empty chair. You're not sure the chair has a soul, but if it does, you want it to drink something warm. You close your eyes and say, "I'm not sure if Seth is real. Not sure if cats can see into souls. Not sure if my shadow is really mine. But I am sure I don't want to live without believing in anything. Believe in anything, as long as it stirs something. Not a beautiful dream, not a grand one, just a dream gentle enough to remind you that feeling something means you're still alive." Bummed. You lie down, hand on your chest. Your heart doesn't need to be strong. It just needs to beat. Once is enough. You whisper, "As long as there's something I don't yet understand, I still have a reason to wake up tomorrow." You sit alone under the eaves, watching sunset sweep across the empty yard where children once played. Nothing's left there, just a few faint footprints, a broken stalk of straw, and one wilted mint leaf curled on the ground, caught between falling and choosing which way to fall. You listen. The wind blows, and you swear you hear a breath, not loud, not fast, just as if someone had sat down then disappeared. You smile, because you know some people leave nothing behind, just a flicker of presence, light enough no one notices, but enough for you to remember. Egg keys tea. And then you do what no one dares you, wrap up a life. One afternoon, you gather the belongings of someone lost. Not much: a bowl, a scarf, a dried garlic stem, a half-used piece of charcoal. You don't toss them. You don't keep them. You wrap them in scraps of cloth, sprinkle a few herb seeds, and bury them in the backyard garden. Not with a name, no flag. Just so this world has space for a soul that was never properly sent off. IKT. And you begin to learn how to say goodbye without tears. Not everyone needs a funeral. Not everyone gets a prayer. But you know everyone deserves at least one final word. You choose your way. A nod. A small goodbye, a falling petal at the right time. You don't force yourself to grieve. You simply remind yourself they were here. And I remember, you drift off to sleep that night without realizing it. No lamp, no good night wishes. No familiar breathing from people or animals nearby. Just exhaustion, tired like rain-soaked earth, soft like old bread, empty in a way that feels like a cracked jar bottom, and you dream. You see yourself standing inside your old home, not the one you're living in now, but the home you once lived in, for many years, many lifetimes, or maybe just an imagination. That house is filled with human sounds, conversations, lids clattering off pots, straw sandals shuffling across clay floors. You smell fried garlic, wood smoke, and sun-dried clothes. You turn your head and see those who had disappeared seated around the meal. No one speaks. They simply look at you. They smile. They nod, as if to say, "Sit down. There's still room at the table." A meal impossible in real life. On the table are dishes you don't remember eating but know well by taste. Bitter melon soup stuffed with faith. Crispy rice soaked in tears dried under the sun. Boiled greens laid next to words you never got to speak. You sit down, lift the spoon to your lips, and cannot swallow. Not out of fear, but because you know, if I eat this, I'll wake up. You don't want to wake up. You want to sit a little longer, even though you know you're eating within someone else's memory. You look around and see forgotten details resurface, an old pair of sandals, a scarf you once forgot at another's house, a chipped bowl you thought was worthless now being used to ladle soup. You smile, so I really remembered. Even the cracks. You once believed loss meant forgetting, but it turns out loss is keeping, even if unused. Maiki. And you realize you're in someone else's dream. At the end of the meal, someone stands, places a hand on your shoulder. No face, no name, just a figure not quite yours yet clearly there. They say thank you for still remembering. But tomorrow, don't be sad if you don't see us. You want to ask for a name, ask what to do so you don't forget again. But you only nod, because your limbs begin to lose weight. You're about to leave the dream, and you know there's no return ticket. On the floor, a dry garlic sprig. On your shirt, a small wet spot. On your lips, the taste of leftover soup. No one would believe it. No one would verify. But you know you met what you never dared name as important. You pull the blanket up, close your eyes. Try to breathe evenly, like someone holding onto something just slipped from their hands. But nothing happens. No garlic smell, no kitchen laughter. Just the humming fan and a mosquito investigating your forehead with startling intimacy. You sigh. The hardest thing wasn't remembering, but wanting to be remembered just once more. Don't you wonder the house touching each corner? You flip the old mat, turn the chipped bowl, touch the doorknob you open every day as if for the first time. You wonder, maybe, I once overlooked something important just because it didn't come with music and light like in dreams. You sit down, write out the little unremarkable things, but things you refuse to forget. The knock on the door before your face was washed. The smell of someone sweating while eating scallion porridge. The half-told story no one remembers how many times I told. You write, not to preserve, but to remind yourself some things don't need to be special. They still deserve to be kept. And then you do something strange, mend the shirt no one owns. You find an old shirt of someone who's gone. It still smells of straw, shows a spot of oil, and has a tiny hole at the shoulder. You pull a needle and thread. You patch it. Not to wear, not to keep. Just because that hole makes you feel time yawns, and mending it is your way of saying, I'm still here. You hang it back in its old place, and quietly stand and look. When you dream of something that never existed, but you don't want to forget it, the next night you dream again. Not of family, not of the old house, but of something that never truly existed. You dream you live in a place with no plague, no charms, no gong summons, no conversations with vegetables, just the sound of people laughing without coughing, the laughter of children playing without distance, voices calling each other in the kitchen without the ritual 3 taps on the bowl. You dream you hold a loaf of bread, soft, warm, just baked, and you take a bite without worrying if it's been blessed yet. A dream, morning where everything needs no explanation. You walk past the temple, no bow. Sit in the market, no hush. Tell a meaningless story and people laugh. You see yourself breathing freely without having to ask permission. You wake with a smile still on your cheek, followed by a sudden pang, because you know that place isn't real. Not just because you woke in a straw hut beside a panting goat and a bowl of cooled porridge from last night, but because you never actually lived there. Kransel. You don't know what that bread tasted like. You don't remember whose laughter it was. You aren't sure the face in the dream was someone you know, but you know you needed it. You try to sketch it with unreliable memory. You take ash. You draw the marketplace from your dream, no stalls, just people sitting and telling stories. You draw a small kitchen, no one cooking, only someone. Tasting, smiling, and adding extra salt for fun. You draw a bridge made of bread where people cross each other, not avoid. And beneath it, you write, it's just a dream, but enough to keep me alive today. Someone asks, why draw things that aren't real? You reply, because if they were real, I wouldn't dare to believe them. But a dream, I can choose to. And sometimes just believing a little bit is enough to push through a dark day. They don't ask again. They just place a charcoal pebble next to your drawing. You realize the unreal can still help real people. A child walks by, sees the drawing, smiles. That's beautiful. I wish it was real. You answer. If enough people remember the place, then it exists, not on a map, but in the mind it's real. The child nods, and the next day you see they drew a door in your picture. Above it reads, entrance for anyone who's ever been sad. You smile, then trace its outline with ash. From that day, you keep one small ritual, write the dream into the earth, not to read again, not to tell others. Simply each morning when you wake, you pick a stick and write in the dirt a phrase from last night's dream. Today, I saw a bridge from my heart to someone else's hand. A wind breezed through to me like it was waiting to ask a question. bread knows how to breathe. I'm grateful it didn't bake me instead. You write, then erase. Dreams are meant to be carried, not kept in permanence. Someone asks if it's not real, why write it? You answer, because I'm not certain it's not real. And I know that if I don't write it, that feeling will vanish as if it never happened. They nod, and the next day they write in the dirt beside you. No one reads each other's words. You only know every morning the earth has fresh words, and the village seems a little less silent. One final dream and a truth no one dared speak that night you dream again. This time, there's only a hand reaching out in the darkness. No face, no name. Just one sentence. If you still can dream, then you haven't given up. You grip that hand. Without fear, without knowing whose it is, you wake, find your hand clenched on the old blanket. Damp, warm, and inside, a peace gentle enough to begin a real day with a heart that somehow just stepped out of a place that never existed. When you can no longer tell which dream is home and which is farewell, you begin dreaming more. Not because you sleep deeply, not because you eat well, just because you needed a place to touch the things no longer present, and you don't know when dream becomes a refuge. At some nights, you step into dreams as gently as entering a familiar room. You don't check if it's real, don't ask if you're awake or asleep. You just walk in and feel I'm home, even if it's a courtyard with grass growing backward. A kitchen with no fire but still warm. A house no one lives in yet everything remembers you. Kamko endo. One day you dream of yourself but somewhere else. You see yourself living in an unnamed place, with clean water, with people calling your name rightly, with a real bed, not a straw mat pressed flat by feet. You ask the person there, "Where is this?" They answer, "It's a place you can lay down your burden, but only if you choose not to return." You wake, feel your shirt ripped, cool sweat. You don't know if you just left home or refused to leave. And you start confusing what's real, what's memory too long held. One day you hear someone mention someone who used to live here. You nod, smile. "I just shared porridge with him last night." They look at you. He's gone. You don't argue. Not sure you can. You only say, "I know." But it was real, and you believe that. You write down what you remember, even if no one believes it, not to prove, just to hold on to something sharper than smoke. You write, "Today I dreamed I was the old mat in the first house. People sat on me, and I felt no weight. I dreamed I folded the fire into my pocket to share when someone felt cold. I dreamed someone called me by my childhood name. I didn't turn, but I cried." You don't read them back. Just fold them up. Bury beneath the mint plant. Then another dream comes, not to hold but to let go. You see yourself standing before a door. Behind it lies all the beautiful memories, family voices, old rice smells, unspoken hugs, broken promises. You're about to step inside, when a whisper sounds, "If you go inside, these will belong to you. If you stay out, they'll belong to those who follow." You stand there, neither step forward nor back. You nod and wake with a gentle sadness in your smile and a reason to stay. You make tea. Write one sentence in the ashes. Not every dream is a place to hide. Some dreams are where you find your own shape. And some dreams are a silent farewell from what once loved you. You don't think anyone else needs to read it. You don't even need them to know, because sometimes believing something is just knowing you still can do something very human. Hold on to hope. When you begin to live as if someone will need to trace your footsteps, you used to fear death. Fear like something suddenly appearing behind you. Fear like the fire going out when night falls. Fear like hearing rapid breathing, with no idea where it's coming from. But then through each night, each season, each time you saw someone disappear with no word, you realized the thing more frightening than death is leaving nothing behind. You restack the bowls, scrub the pot, wash the chipped wooden spoon, not so you can cook, but so someone else can. You start scribbling notes in charcoal on the wall. Left jar is for clean water. Greens planted in mild sunlight last longer. If a cat blocks the door, wait 5 minutes, then pass. It knows something you don't. You don't write out of superstition. You write because someone will need something to believe in to go on. You begin stitching the old straw mat, not for your own comfort. The mat is worn, cloth fraying. One corner eaten by mice, not badly, but enough to hurt to look at. You pick up a needle and thread. Stitch each stitch carefully like embroidering. A reason for someone to lie down without feeling cold. You begin teaching a child to light a fire and how to stay silent. The child often sits near you, asks few questions, just watches. One day you hand them a bundle of dry straw. Try this. They light it on fire. You nod. Good. But keeping the fire alive is harder. Don't let the wind blow it out. Likewise, don't tell your thoughts to someone who doesn't know how to guard them. The child nods. They don't fully understand, but you believe one day they will. You begin writing the stories of those no one remembers. You use ash writing on leaves, then letting them dry. The old woman who laughed when porridge spilled said it's how the soup said hello to the cook. The young man who drew a goat with only 3 strokes, but everyone recognized it. The man who sang sad songs to his cat, and the cat actually slept. You gather them, tie them together, bury beneath the tree. No one asks. You don't tell. You just make sure that somehow those who once were aren't completely gone. You begin mending pieces of wood even when no one asked you. Your wooden table creaks, you fix it. A warped door starts squeaking, you prop it with a stone. The jar lid keeps blowing off, you tie it with straw and a small rock. No one asked. No one knows. You just think someone will live here after me. They deserve not to start from chaos. You don't rebuild the village, but you mend enough so later. No one falls into despair thinking they're the first. One day, you set up a small signpost, no name, no writing. You drive a stake in the garden. Tie an old wooden spoon, a mint leaf, and a pebble to it. Someone asks, "What's that?" You answer. It's just something to look at. And remember that someone was here. Someone who used it, lived and thought. If it's warm enough, that's enough to live. From that day, people leave a few stones too. No questions. Just quietly adding something like they too need proof they passed through. Handrikachi. At day's end, you write a line at the base of the tree. If I'm not here tomorrow, please water the tree for me. Not as a reminder, not to inspire grief, just so even if you're gone at least, the tree keeps living. And that's enough. When you leave something behind not for others, but for your future self, you once believed heritage was for the next generation. Then one day you realized the next generation could just be yourself, the future you, who's forgotten your own reasons. One afternoon, you write a note to a stranger in the future yourself. You sit by the fire. No dreams, no memories, no special hopes. You take a scrap of wood and write, "If you find this and don't remember writing it, then hi there." This was you when you still wanted to keep living. You laugh, a gentle smile, like a falling leaf. Not sad, not joyful, just gratitude. You start a notebook for your past self, not long, not philosophical, just small reminders for when you forget the past. If nothing seems beautiful today, look at the curved spoon. If you forget why you stayed, eat the bread. Bread is great at reminding. If loneliness hurts, stroke the cat. If there's no cat, stroke the straw basket. You hide the notebook under a pile of wood. No lock, just a rock on top a sign private enough for you, but not to block someone else who might need it. One day, you draw your face not to remember, but to remind yourself you existed. With charcoal, you draw a round head on the wall. No details, just two eyes, a curved mouth, and the line. Today I was here, and I was not useless, not art, not worth passing on. But you feel lighter, because each time you look at it, you remember someone once felt that way. And that someone is you. You create a box for the days I've forgotten everything. A small wooden box. Inside, a scrap of paper reading "Smile Once." A dried bean. This survives even if no one remembers to water it. A piece of old cloth smelling of ash. You were once warm even in the coldest season. A shard of broken mirror, to remember that even broken we can reflect. You place the box in a corner. No decorations, just breathe tomorrow. If I forget, I'll find myself here again. One evening, you pick up the note you wrote long ago and don't recognize yourself. You hold the note, thank you for still wanting to breathe. You freeze. Who wrote this? When? How? Did it fit so perfectly? Then you laugh, because you know maybe you forgot. But there was a time you really remembered. Auntie. You think further if you're gone. What would you want to see? Not belongings, not pictures, but a feeling. You write on a strip of cloth. If one day I don't want to open my eyes, please let me hear the spoon clink a bowl. Just to remind me, I once ate my fill. You fold the cloth, place it in a clay jar, bury it in the corner of your home. No one needs to know. No one needs to dig it out. Just, you wanted to leave behind something true in case everything else fails. And then you begin sending letters to yourself without expectation of reply. Each week, you take a small wooden piece. Write one line, no name, no date. Just don't believe anyone who says clouds have no weight. Sorrow was once water vapor. Today the child in me smiled. I don't know why. but I didn't stop them. If someone asks why I'm still alive, I'll say because I once wondered that question. You collect the pieces, place them in a cloth pouch, hang it from the rafters, unseen by others, seen only by you if needed. One night, you whisper your gratitude for not disappearing. You sit alone, a bowl of cold porridge in hand. No one alongside, no one listening. You whisper, "Thank you for leaving me a way home." Not a map, but a sign. And even if I forget, everything will still recognize my own handwriting. When you begin to live without needing witnesses, you no longer wait for someone to ask, "Are you okay?" You don't need someone nodding at your actions. You quietly live, cook, clean, write, and know that you don't need to be seen to not disappear. You hang clothes as if the sky needs proof someone is trying. You string up your shirt even if dust will coat it again. You fold blankets even though you'll sleep alone tonight. You quietly fold clothes, stack scarves, not to show others you're tidy, but so that tomorrow you see you haven't given up. Ich hoffe, this is waiting. You cook even if no one joins your meal. You husk rice, boil greens, add salt. You set 2 bowls, 2 spoons. Not because you're waiting, but because you remember how to invite and how to leave a meaningful place set. You continue repairing and gathering what others left behind: a worn slipper, a broken straw basket, a door frame about to wobble. You don't fix them out of sentimentality. You fix them because something in you won't accept silent abandonment. You keep writing not for publication but to survive. You write on straw. Today I'm sad, but I still wash the dishes. Today the sky is overcast, but I still spread the mat. Today no one said my name, and I still breathe as if someone called me. You don't know who'll read it. Maybe yourself. Maybe someone who passes by and picks it up. But you write. 'Cause in every word you leave proof that you felt and didn't let your feelings vanish unnamed. One day someone asks, "Who do you live for?" You smile. "I used to live to be remembered. Then I lived to remember others. Now, I live like a leaf, unseen but still green." They nod. Do you ever feel invisible? You look around. A breeze brushes your shoulder. Yes, but I also know being invisible doesn't mean being meaningless. You sit on the porch and feel you no longer need an audience. You pour tea for yourself. Gaze at the imperfect moon. Rest your feet at the edge of the mat as if someone was sitting opposite you. You think each day I do small things unseen by others, unmentioned, but I know I'm still here. I remain anchored by things no one needed to applaud. When you begin to notice some things never change, even if you have changed a lot. This morning, you wake up early, not because anyone called you, not because you had somewhere to go, just the familiar light slipping through the straw roof, shining exactly on the corner of your mat that once caught your sweat. How many days ago? You no longer count. Melisme. The son, your old neighbour who never missed an appointment. You look at the patch of sunlight on the wall, still there, at the same tilt, that warm feeling, neither burning nor showy. You touch the light and unexpectedly want to cry, because after everything, something never forgot you're here. Not a god, not the villagers, but the sun quietly placing a hand on your shoulder each morning, never missing a day. Be corner where everything once began. You gaze at the corner of the house, the place where the rice basket sat, the soup bowl, the warm ashes. Now it's empty, but the marks remain. A dark ring where the jar stood, a dent where your foot once rested. You think no one can keep another person, but a corner can hold the shape of the person who is gone. You step closer, sit exactly there, lean your neck against the wall, and feel this is the only place you never left. Old things remain even when you no longer immediately notice them. The cracked bamboo basket has been mended, not by you, maybe by the child who once asked her to start a fire. The mint plant has sprouted another branch. Someone watered it. The curved spoon you thought to toss someone now uses it for salt. It's still curved, still functional. You smile. Not everything you do disappears. Some things quietly continue through others' hands. You sit alone but don't feel lonely. No one speaks, no voices, just the wind, the spoon tapping the pot rim, the soft creak of bamboo beneath your steps. Yet you don't feel empty. Every sound feels like a small reminder. You're still here. You don't need to be called by name. You don't need someone to ask if you're okay. You just need to hear. The silent nothing is new. The house is still old. The walls are patched in the same spot. The mat is still rough. The cat still yawns without manners. But you feel lighter. Not because the sadness has gone, but because, you know, not everything will leave me. Some things without words, without arms, still stay. Like sunlight, like a handprint in wood, like unnamed warmth. Dashu. You touch a mark on the wall and awaken a memory that had been asleep. The scrape on the wall, you once fell into it, trying to carry a basket of half-raw sweet potatoes. You chuckle, because now looking back, that pain turns out to be a way to prove you were there. Not every wound needs to heal. Some marks need to remain to remind you. You once tried hard. Especially. You open the lid of a small box, empty yet full of everything. It's a wooden box you found cleaning the kitchen corner. Nothing special, old chipped loose hinges. You open it, empty. But you smell that familiar musk like a midday long ago. You run your hand inside. Dust, some strands of grass. A hair may be yours from when you were someone else. You don't put anything in. You don't take anything out. You just close it and let it rest. Because sometimes an empty space holds more than you think. Before sleeping, you close your eyes and know one thing for sure. Not every day feels gentle. Not every morning wants you to wake up. But tonight you know, even if I leave behind nothing grand, I did not abandon the home I once lived in with my whole heart. And tomorrow, if the sunlight shines again on that small mat, you'll get up, place your feet on the floor, and whisper, "Good morning, old world that still waits for me." When you find peace, not because someone arrived, but because no one left, you used to think peace was someone coming, walking in, sitting down, smiling. But then you grew up and lost and survived, and you realize peace is when no one has to leave anymore. It's when you don't have to clean up feelings after a goodbye. No one knocks. No one checks in. No one leaves a soup bowl by the door. You sit up, breathe, fold the blanket still warm. No sad news, no joyful news either. Just a day where no one left. And you're surprised. Why does that feel enough? You cook breakfast not for someone to join, but because no one is missing. Before every meal you made, someone was absent. Someone had just left the village. Someone had passed. Someone who sat there yesterday, today, just a faint bowl mark on the mat. But this morning, no one is missing. Because no one was expected, so no one was lost. And you taste your porridge fully, not saving any, not leaving leftovers, not afraid that the next knock might be the last. CE, that's enough to tell you you haven't disappeared. You sit under the eaves, not waiting for anyone, not turning anyone away. You don't look out at the road as much as you used to. Back then, you glanced toward the footpath leading into the village, waiting for someone to return, or afraid you'd see someone leave. Now not anymore. You sit. Just enough tea in your cup. Just enough breeze in the air. Just enough to know today I am here. Not to prove anything, but to not miss anything. And when you look back, the ones who left no longer feel so far away. No one comes back, but you no longer need them to. You see them in the bowl you use, in the fire you build, in the way your hand rests on the rim of the jar, just like someone once taught you. It's not that they've returned, it's that you stop pushing them away with regret. You let them stay, without forcing, without clinging, and you smile not with tears, just warmth, like a bowl of porridge made for one. Baz ikun. A young person asks you, how do you stop being sad? You look at the child, a familiar posture like you many years ago. You don't say, it gets better. You don't say, time heals. You just pour tea. Slide the cup over. Sometimes sadness doesn't come from losing something, but from thinking that losing it is the end. But if you let sadness stay, like a guest caught in the rain, then one day it'll stand up on its own and step out onto the porch. The child doesn't reply, just nods, takes a sip, and stays a little longer. When you stop counting who stayed and start tending to what's still alive, you used to keep a list of those who left, used to count the empty huts, used to save every scrap of old belongings, as if keeping people meant keeping their things. But one day, you got tired, not because someone left, but because you were still here, and some things need to live more than they need to be remembered. You start watering plants not out of habit, but because the roots need it. The mint by the porch has leaned. You brace it with a stick, tie it gently. Water it every morning, not wondering if it remembers anyone, just knowing it still wants to grow. You pull weeds, scatter ash, mutter a few words, unsure if they're for the plant or for yourself. We don't need to understand each other. Just try to grow a little more together. You feed the chicken, not because you love it, but because it's hungry. The old hen doesn't lay eggs anymore. Waddles like she's constantly pondering life's meaning. You don't need eggs. You just notice her standing at your door. Longer than usual. No clucking. Just staring. You toss some grains to the ground. She pecks, then walks off like she'd never stood there at all. You shake your head. Exactly. Love isn't something that needs to be returned. You wash clothes not because you have to, but because you don't want them to mold. No one sniffing your shirt, no one sharing your mat, but you still wash, still hang them out to dry, still fold them carefully as if waiting for someone to return, even knowing they won't, not for hope, but because some things deserve to stay clean, even when no one's using them. And you stroke the cat, not because you need to, but because it's still here. The cat lies curled in the corner of the kitchen. It doesn't leave. It doesn't complain. Each time you touch it, it lets out a soft sound, then closes its eyes. You run your hand down its back, slowly, not for comfort, just to know you can still touch something that's alive. Then you realize you stopped counting losses the moment you started caring. You don't remember the last person you cried for. Don't recall which hut was emptied most recently. Don't remember the last time you wrote in the notebook, "Someone is missing today." Because now you're busy living with what remains. You don't count anymore. You just care. Gently, softly. Even your longing has softened. You lie down. The mat is slightly damp, not fragrant, not perfectly clean, but warm. You look up at the thatched roof. The wind rustles softly. And inside you there are no voices calling you back, no footsteps growing distant, no empty spaces demanding to be filled. Only the fullness of the present, even if small, even if unseen. When an ending isn't closure, but a way to let go gently, you don't hear the gong anymore. No more coughing in the night. No more shadows tiptoeing around the village, afraid of stirring the wind. No one announces the end of the outbreak. No one puts up a celebratory board. No one blows a horn to declare it's all over. It's just people start living again, without mentioning anything more. A normal day arrives with no welcome and no resistance. You're cooking porridge when the cat meows, not because it's hungry, but because no one's talked to it all morning. You laugh, say, "Sorry, it's been a little too quiet today, huh?" You're not afraid of silence anymore, because you understand. Sometimes quiet is a sign of healing. And no one crying is also a way to remember. You go to the garden, see people planting again, not for the next season. No plans, no discussions, just someone digs, someone waters, someone ties back the gourd trellis that snapped last monsoon. No one asks, "Is anyone still here?" Because now the answer isn't in the head count. It's in the seeds already planted. I was here. I'm no longer afraid of being forgotten. Because I've remembered others long enough to know I was once present too. You place the notebook on the kitchen loft. Not closed. Not folded tight. If someone wants to read, they can. If not, that's okay too. A notebook doesn't need a reader to still keep things warm. You don't fold your clothes to prove someone will see I lived neatly tomorrow. You don't blow out the lamp because everyone does that before sleeping. You just lie down, head on your arm, staring at the thatched roof. Then close your eyes. No reminders to remember anything. No hope of someone waking you, just. Tonight there's nothing left to regret. And no longer any fear that no one will witness your falling asleep. I didn't leave much, but I didn't take anything either. And maybe that's enough. When you leave no footprints, but leave behind an empty seat. That morning, no one saw you get up. No sounds from the kitchen. No sight of the bowl that usually came out first. No panic, no alarm. Because you'd said it many times before, if one day I don't get up, just eat as usual. I left enough. The mat you slept on still held warmth even if you weren't there. The first person to enter just stood still. Didn't yell, didn't call, didn't lift the blanket. Just looked at where you always lay, saw the dented mat, the loosely folded blanket, as if you had just gotten up to go somewhere. Briefly. And maybe that was true. The bowl you always used, no one touched it that morning. No one cleaned it. No one put it away. No one replaced it. It still sat there, empty, clean, light. Like a period at the end of a sentence no one dared write more on. The cat still lay in the corner, didn't meow, didn't leave. It lifted its head every time someone entered, then lay back down, not curled up, not hiding its face, just breathing steadily as if to say, they haven't left. They're just somewhere, nearby. No shrine was built, but everyone walked past your mat a little slower. Someone laid down a sprig of mint. Another placed a wooden spoon. A child pulled a pebble from their pocket and said nothing. No one cried aloud, but a silence fell that made every breath in the house hitch just slightly. That day people still ate, still lit the fire, still scrubbed pots, rinsed rice, trimmed vegetables. Only the spot where you used to sit remained empty. No one discussed it. No one claimed it. It was just everyone felt they had no right to take that place. And so someone placed a bowl of warm water there. Not to drink, just to keep warm what had gone without a sound. When everything is over and you only have one thing left to say, no farewell ceremony was held. No one recounted your deeds. No lines were carved. No one read your name aloud. But in the house, a few things. No one dared to touch. Your mat's corner, they tidied it very gently. An old woman spread it flat again. Didn't shake it hard. Didn't beat out the dust. Just smoothed it softly, like someone was still sleeping there. Then she placed a straw pillow unused on it, and left. No one asked. Only the sunlight continued to shine in that same spot every morning. Someone found a piece of paper with only one line tucked into the wall. No name, no date. It read, "If anyone is sad, sit here. No need to speak. Just sit." No one knew when you wrote it. No one knew if you wrote it for yourself or someone else. Only since that day that seat was never empty for too long. One night the cat sat and stared at the door. No one entered. No sound. It just sat, still, long, until the lamp's oil ran dry. Then it returned to its corner curled up. Didn't meow, just exhaled. Like it had said goodbye for someone else. Not with a shadow, not with words, just with a bowl of steaming water. A child dreamed of you placing a hand on their shoulder. No words, just a nod. Then walking out into a gentle light like a morning that had never been interrupted. Not with voice, not with pen, not with rituals, just with the things you once touched. A spoon no one dared lose. A bamboo basket patched 3 times. A corner of wall with the perfect dent for leaning your head. And the final word wasn't goodbye. It was I was here. And I don't need to stay for that to remain true. You've travelled with me a very long way. From the first ray of light slipping through the thatched roof to the final dream where you placed your hand on the mat and didn't need to say a word. Maybe you're hearing this when you're already drifting off or curled up in bed, not even sure which part you're at. Or maybe you're still awake but your heart feels a little quieter than before. Whoever you are, wherever you are, whatever you're carrying, I just want you to know you are not a shadow in the fog. You are a very small light, but enough for someone to find their way without fear. If today was heavy, then please breathe out gently. If you're worried about tomorrow, just remember the sun will still shine into that old corner of your home, even if you don't wake up in time to see it. If you feel small, look again at that old spoon still holding its shape, and know this, even without a loud voice, I am still needed. Thank you for staying, for listening, for breathing alongside this story. Wishing you a gentle sleep, not needing a beautiful dream, just a peaceful rest. And if you wake up tomorrow remembering even one small thing, then that is enough. Sleep well. We'll meet again in another story another night, where you'll still be you, even if you've forgotten your own name. And now, night falls over the land of ancient Egypt. Pause. The fire dies. The prayers fade. Pause. Even the gods sleep for a while. You lie on the old straw mat, the smell of dust and rough fabric still clinging softly to your skin. Pause. Outside the Nile still flows, whisper slowly, indifferently unchanged. All the chaos that God Seth brought today. Pause. Can wait until tomorrow. But for now, exhale. There is only quiet. Pause. Inhale. Pause. And let it go. Because right now, you've survived one more day in this ancient world. Pause. And that is enough. Whisper. Sleep well, traveller. Sleep as if even Ra is dreaming.